Okay, so we'll just, when we ask for addendums or amendments, we'll.
Good, how are you doing?
Oh,
That, that doesn't sound like a,
Oh,
It's a
oh,
long
no,
day.
we had.
is it? What do you got after the CDA?
We are altering.
Well,
this,
Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District is
We
tonight.
found that out
Then
last
the
time,
Shark
so
I think we are good, all right. We're gonna call the Scott County Board of Commissioners, Authority for the Scott County Ditch 4 meeting to order. Thank you for bearing with me for getting a few pieces of paper printed off. I'd like to welcome everyone who is attending the continued hearing today. Following the close of public comment on June 17th, 2025, the board adopted a motion to continue the public hearing for purposes of allowing the City of Credit River to have ample time to consider the option of taking over the drainage system for city purposes. At this continued hearing, we will receive the report of our staff on the abandonment of Scott County Ditch 4 pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 103E.811. Following the staff report, the board is asked to postpone any further action until the city and county can come to an agreement on the terms of the turnover of the ditch. If you'd like to make a comment, when the public comment period is open, please wait to be recognized by myself. When recognized, please state your name and address for the record. It will be also helpful for you to identify the property that is subject to the drainage system by section, township, and range if possible. If you have a specific question concerning the abandonment or staff, we will respond. Any board members like to make any comments before we receive information? All right, otherwise, Ms. Loggy, good morning. You're
Morning, Mr.
becoming
Chair and
famous or
Commissioners.
infamous with all this ditch work. Welcome.
We're getting there.
We are. It feels like it. It feels like it.
We've had a flurry of activity since June 17th on this ditch. We've met with Credit River multiple times. There was a large contingent, including Commissioner Wolf, that went out to tour Leroy Voll's property based on his complaint that he had at the public hearing. And we've asked SWCD as our ditch inspector to take a look at the maintenance requests and provide us with an assessment. I'm going to be showing some maps, and I'm going to talk about some of the areas that were pinpointed as needing some maintenance. But first of all, during the public hearing on the 17th, Mr. Voll was obviously quite concerned about a big ravine on his property that was caused by erosion, but it was eroding away some of his property. What used to be a small creek that apparently they could walk across has now become a large ravine. That ravine, however, is not part of County Ditch 4. So it's not part of the action that we're taking with this. There was a plan. There were people out there, including the Scott WMO, in 2020, I believe, that took a look at that and came up with a plan to hopefully help correct the issue. However, they did not have agreement of all the adjacent landowners. So in order to go forward, they need to have all adjacent landowners in agreement to continue with that work. Scott WMO was there again with us when we toured his property. They are going to add this again to their plan and try and secure grant funding. But again, we need to have all landowner agreement in order to move forward. So I do believe that Leroy was going to possibly work with the adjacent landowners to try to get everyone into agreement. So hopefully he's able to do that. This is kind of an overview, this map of County Ditch 4 and some of the areas that we're going to talk about. One of the first areas of maintenance that was looked at by the SWCD was to clean out a portion of the ditch that is going from Leroy Voll's driveway to Texas Avenue, under Texas Avenue, and possibly a bit further. When the SWCD did their maintenance assessment, they indicated that the culvert underneath, or the culvert is about 3/4 full of sediment. There's also significant sediment in the ditch itself, a lot of it coming from that ravine. And there are many trees and obstructions on both sides of the ditch. They are going to, we've instructed them to get bids in order to remove trees from one side of the ditch, clear the sediment. I've also talked with the Scott County Highway Department to have them take a look at the box culvert under Texas Avenue to see about cleaning the sediment out of there. SWCD indicates they may need some engineering or survey help to understand how far past Texas Avenue they would need to remove sediment in order to get the free flow conditions that they're looking for. The next area that they looked at was from the Voll property to Flag Trail. There is flow here of water. There is positive flow, but it's very slow. There's also moderate to heavy tree and shrub cover. There's numerous snags, and other obstructions in this area of the ditch as well. This will be the second area that SWCD is going to go out for bid to see about cleaning out that portion of the ditch. In addition, SWCD has received a complaint from the occupier of the radio tower property, which you're going to see on this map in the left lower corner. That property itself has not been cleaned recently. It's very difficult to clean that property because there are a lot of underground wires and tile lines. However, downstream of that, heading towards Leroy's property, that has been spot cleaned as recently as 2020 and 2021. SWCD did observe that there's a sediment plume that's forming from actually when Credit River enters County Ditch 4. So the river is bringing that sediment with it and depositing it into the ditch. Again, this will be the third area that SWCD will get bids in order to clean the downstream of the radio tower property. The staff, we feel that the clean out needs to happen probably not depending on what's going to happen with this ditch in order to get some of the water flowing more freely. So in order to do that, once we receive the bids, we will come back to the board with those bids. We will also have a proposed final lien that we will place against the current assessment roll. And if we're able to come up with an agreement with the city of Credit River to take possession of the ditch, then we will include in that lien a maintenance fund, probably for a period of 3 years, which is what we normally do, that when they do take possession of the ditch, we would transfer those funds to the city for them to use for maintenance until they're able to establish their stormwater fee system, however they're going to do that going forward. We have, as I said, had meetings with the city of Credit River. They did discuss at their last council meeting taking over the ditch. They are in most agreement with doing that, I believe. There are some conditions which are mentioned in the packet. So one of them is to complete the maintenance that's noted in the SWCD assessment plan, which we just discussed. Leave the city with a positive fee balance, which is what we're looking at. The county is going to disclose any past complaints and any action taken on those complaints for the history of CD4. We will provide all of our historical records of the ditch to the city. The last one in their council meeting said that they were looking for indemnity, that the county would indemnify the city for any work that has been completed on the ditch. In a meeting with city staff after the council meeting, I think that was clarified a little bit to include that what they're really looking for is a statement letting them know that there are no active lawsuits against the county for any work that's been done on CD4, which I can verify there are not. So we are hopeful that we can negotiate some type of an agreement here in the next couple weeks, that we would then also bring that agreement back to the board, hopefully in that October 21st meeting that we already have scheduled. If no agreement is able to be made, then we would be coming back, reconvening the public hearing and considering either abandonment or a redetermination of benefits and having the county continue with County Ditch 4. So as of now, staff is recommending that we continue the hearing again to allow us to negotiate with the city for the takeover of County Ditch 4. We would anticipate that we would continue to hold the ditch as this maintenance is completed, and then the turnover of the ditch could happen either. SWCD is guessing, I guess, that if the contractors are available, it's possible that this maintenance could be completed yet this year. Otherwise, it would probably be next spring. And then once that maintenance is complete, as long as we have an agreement in place, the ditch would be turned over to the city. With that, I will stand for questions.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any questions for Ms. Loggy?
Can I, one thing, Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the August 19th, 2025 ditch board meeting minutes.
Yes, we're definitely gonna do that. I got a little excited.
Second.
So, all right, we're gonna go back to item numbers, because I got so excited to get to the presentation. We're gonna go back, but I still have some questions for item 2.1 in the August 19th, 2025 ditch board meeting minutes. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on that item? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, those minutes pass. Now, going back to the presentation, any questions? Any questions for Ms. Loggy?
Mr. Chair, Thank you. I don't think they're questions, just things that, you know, for our final hearing, if we get to that point, I'm just wondering, at that hearing, probably our ditch attorney will be there,
Yes.
Yes.
about the propriety of doing this final assessment without redetermining benefits, even though we know the benefit role is so outdated. So I'd like him to comment on that and kind of back us up for that if that's the direction we go.
Sure.
And then I didn't really see this, and I didn't look it up, I probably could have. But when we keep talking about turning it over to the city, then is it subject to a different statutory framework? How
Yes.
does that actually work? What's our actual action there?
I believe the city would be taking this over not as a ditch, but as a stormwater maintenance. Is that the intention? Stormwater? Okay, stormwater for the city of Credit River.
So would we still be abandoning the ditch, or what's the actual action we would that
In
would be
effect,
taken?
yes, I believe we do abandon the ditch.
That
for
would
the
be our
county's
legal action.
responsibility of it, and then we turn it over to the city to use for stormwater.
Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to clarify the legal action we'd be taking.
As far as your first question, Commissioner, I do believe that since this is a final lien that we are proposing, that we can use the current benefits roll, because once that lien is paid, then we will never use that benefits roll again. So if the city does not agree to take over the ditch, or we can't come to an agreement, then we would be back to the option of abandonment or the redetermination of benefits and continuing on with the ditch under the county's provision. But I do believe because it would be the final lien and we would never use that benefits roll again, we are able to do that. But I will have our attorney verify.
Wonderful, thank you. Can I have one more, Mr.
Yep,
Chair?
yep.
I've gotten a couple calls on this the last week or two. And one thing that I think, a concern that was forwarded to me had to do with, I think you referred to it as a radio tower property.
Yes.
And how it is wet in wet years. And at least it was the contention of one person who called me that the ditch never drained that. So I would assume we're sticking to our duties, you know, of getting the ditch back up to standards, but not, like, it's not the county's job, and because we have to assess the taxpayers, that's why we care, to do
Correct.
more than the ditch ever did. Has there
Correct.
been any talk about that?
Well, we have not in any recent or any records that we could find cleaned the actual radio tower property because of the underground wires and everything. But as I mentioned, downstream of that has been spot cleaned, and that's what we would be doing again, just to help create the flow from that area all the way out underneath Texas Avenue.
Perfect, that helps to understand it's not at all on that property.
No.
Because it never has been. Thank you.
Any other questions? Clarification on, my new iPad is having trouble connecting, so I don't have the packet in front of me. Is there a balance in that, for that CD4, that would be transferred potentially to the
This-
city? Or what are we talking about, negotiation and cleaning these things up to some extent, what she alluded to?
Sure. Commissioner, there is currently not a balance. In fact, the balance is negative. So what we will be coming forward with in the next meeting is a lien amount in order to complete the cleaning, as well as bring the funds above the negative level. And then we will also, if we're able to come to an agreement, establish a maintenance fund. When the county establishes a maintenance fund, we normally do that for a period of 3 years, and we look at the average maintenance that's done during the year. So we would then ask the benefited owners to pay the liens to establish that 3-year fund. When the ditch is turned over to the city, then any excess amount in that fund would be turned over to the city for them to use.
And that's the part I wanted to clarify, that the funds for the cleaning, the funds for this maintenance, are all gonna be still set up for the benefited owners of CD4 and not
Correct.
the larger taxpayer
For
watershed.
CD4, for the benefited role of CD4.
That clarifies what I was looking for me.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Chris, could you ballpark the average maintenance in the last 3 years? Is that?
I don't believe that there's been a lot of maintenance on CD4 in the last several years, other than maybe a possible tree snag or beaver dam removal.
Beavers.
The last time we did any maintenance above those types of activities was in 2021 when they did that spot clean downstream of the radio tower property.
So the amount of funds that we would, to Credit River for that would be minimal.
I don't know that we've come to an agreement on how much the funding is that they're looking for. That'll be part of our negotiations, where we can show them what the averages have been and then see what we can agree on.
Okay.
Okay, any other final questions, at least for this go-around with Ms. Loggy? All right, otherwise, it looks like we're gonna open this up to public comment. I just wanna make sure that we're, so that's what we're gonna do. So if we're done with, any comments, we are ready to hear from members of the public. If anyone would like to come up and comment on County Ditch 4, CD4, come on up, make your way to the podium, state your name and, address for the record. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Bill Markert, 7690 Crestview Drive, Credit River. I'm speaking on behalf of it as a resident. I'm on the city council for Credit River. When I got that letter a couple years ago and filled it out, there was only two options. There was the option of the county continues to manage the ditch and have a redeterminate benefits, or to abandon it. It didn't have a third option where the city of Credit River would pick up the responsibility and the legality of maintaining it. My vote would have been different if that third option was on the letter. And I think I'm speaking on behalf of other people too, because what we're essentially doing is taking the responsibility from the county and moving it to the city. We're a small city. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't know how much maintenance has been done on it over the last 10 years. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into. And the county is, in my opinion, is better situated to continue maintaining it. I would have voted that the county could keep it. I voted that it abandoned it because I didn't like the $250,000 redetermination of benefits cost. So I'm a little concerned about that. I just wanted to put on the record that I'm concerned about that, and I mentioned it in our city council meeting last time. Second thing is, I looked at the statutes, the one you referenced, Commissioner, at the beginning of the meeting. And is the county a benefiting owner of the ditch? Because when I read the statutes, it sounds to me like a benefiting owner has to petition the drainage authority to abandon. And it seems like the county took it upon themselves to do it, but they're not. Are they capable of doing a petition? And maybe that's something for the ditch attorney to talk about. Maybe you want to put that in your questions when you reconvene the public hearing. Really, those are the two things that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that we don't know how much of maintenance has been done on the ditch. We talked a little bit about some of the things south in the southern part of Credit River. We don't know what maintenance was done on the northern part of Credit River in the ditch. And, you know, as a resident, I'm concerned about ever collecting any type of responsibility if I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And I heard a lot of concerns when I listened to the recording of the June meeting about people had concerns about how much it might cost to fix things. And they didn't know either, but they were guessing. So those are the only comments I wanted to make, and I thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time, appreciate it. Yeah, let's, Chris. Some of this might be for Mr. Kolb at the next meeting, but Chris,
Sure.
take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The first point is, when we sent out those letters, that all stemmed from a landowner meeting that we held. We held a meeting and we discussed the ditch inspector that was with SWCD at the time, and I were there, Cindy was there, and actually some of the Credit River staff was there. Their engineer was there and their acting city administrator was there. At the meeting, we told them this is the maintenance that we feel would need to be done to bring the CD4 back into the shape that it was when it was constructed. We would need to do a redetermination of benefits. I do believe actually it was the landowners that were asking for other options, and the option of abandonment came up. The meeting was not well attended, however, the people that were in attendance were very clear that they wanted the city to help, or the county to help them further their idea of abandoning the ditch. So they asked us to send out a letter to all the benefited owners with the options that were presented at the meeting. Along the way, as we were discussing this with our drainage attorney, he brought forward the idea that the city could take over the ditch for stormwater purposes. So that was not an option that we were even aware of when we sent out that initial letter.
Mr. Chair, is it appropriate for me at this time
Please.
to ask a question?
Yes.
And I think that is why I asked the question prior. Our action would still be abandoning the ditch.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's not even really a turnover. We would still be abandoning. And then the city, if they decided to go forward, would take over the infrastructure of the ditch for a whole different purpose. So they would not be subject to those statutes. It would be very different. So I think we need to make that clear. We're trying to work with our fellow jurisdictions if they want to do something, but the decision in front of us is still either to maintain, to do a redetermination of benefits and get it up to those standards, which we know would be very expensive and that we have to assess every cent of that to the benefited owners, or we can abandon because we don't think the ditch serves the purpose that it was created for a long, long time ago. So I just wanted to clarify that and correct me if I'm wrong there, but I want to make sure we have the right decisions in front of us.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Beard, Chris, the other option that was originally on the abandonment is it just becomes part of Credit River then, just like it is through Savage, correct? I mean, it just becomes a natural waterway through the county. It was the city, I believe, who showed an interest because they use it for storm drainage to be able to maintain it in that fashion, and why they had the discussion on it becoming part of the storm system. So that was, remember, the original discussion was, it just goes back to being Credit River like it is in the city of Savage.
And Mr. Chair, that's what would happen if we abandon it. That's not even a different option. That's just if we abandon, it Riverway, even though it is a ditch too.
Right, yeah.
Correct. And I do believe that in our ongoing discussions, before we even brought up the idea of Credit River could take over the ditch, there was some hesitation when we talked to staff of having it abandoned. Just because they do use it for stormwater. We have been working with our drainage attorney throughout this entire process. And I know that his feeling is if we did go forward with a redetermination of benefits, that the city would become a pretty significant benefited owner. So any costs that are expended on this ditch, the city would be responsible. Now, I can't say that until, of course, you have the viewers come out. But in talking with our drainage attorney, the city currently does have some property on the ditch, but they are not being benefited for use as a stormwater for the city, which would come into play if it goes through redetermination of benefits. So it would increase their benefit quite substantially.
So, yeah.
If you could just clarify for me, we're negotiating this with the city.
Yes.
How much are we actually required to do? Or how much are we doing just as good partners, collaborative, versus how much are we absolutely required to do in terms of turning this back? Or abandoning it? Not turning it back, abandoning it. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't know that we're required to do any of the negotiating. I mean, our options are that we can abandon the ditch or we can continue the ditch under the county's jurisdiction. When the option of turning it over for stormwater purposes came up and the city seemed interested in that. We've had several meetings with them, and so it's kind of a good faith on our part in order to negotiate with them to do that, so that the ditch doesn't just become the natural water course that it would if it was abandoned.
Okay.
And so just for further clarification, so right now, for any of the ditches, but we're talking about CD4, we're sitting here in this county building, we're here, you're here, like we're spending taxpayer money goes to kind of convene these meetings.
Yes.
This isn't paid for out of the ditch board or the ditch coffers, correct?
Correct.
So there's some taxpayer, general taxpayer money going to facilitate these ditches when they come up. So, reading the agenda, Scott County Ditch Board meeting, we're the ditch board, but the county, the legal entity or the jurisdiction of the county does not own this ditch. Fair assessment?
No, that is correct, Commissioner. The ditch, when it was established, was petitioned for by the landowners along that ditch. And it was back in the time they were established, it was for drainage purposes for agricultural production.
Right. I don't know how to shut this thing off.
The owners of the ditch are the benefited owners.
Right, so the benefited owners along any waterway, well, not any ditch, in this case CD4, they are the owners, they are the ones that are taxed to pay for any of this upkeep.
Correct.
Beyond us are here convening, so there's some dollars there. And so it's interesting, and yes, John would have to verify that, but the city could be considered a benefited owner if the benefits were redetermined, versus if we, as the ditch board, the county as the ditch board, abandon this ditch, the city assumes it, or whatever the legal terms are of that process, then they would have taxing authority as a waterway and a stormwater for the entire city.
Correct.
Would be able to levy taxes that way because conceivably everyone's a benefited owner, although that would not be the term.
Correct. And
It is expensive to go through that
yes,
process.
I believe that is the intention. They have other waterways within the city that they want included in this stormwater solution.
Yeah.
I have a curiosity question. Does the city have the authority to individually assess properties along the ditch? I mean, they could assess across the whole city for managing these kind of things, but can they individually assess? Do you know?
I believe if they continued with it as a ditch, they could have a benefits role that they could assess the properties along the ditch. That is probably more of a question for John, but
Okay.
yes. I don't think that's their intention going forward.
Any other questions, any other clarifications, any more public comment? Why not? We've got a little extra time here. Otherwise,
Do we need to close the public hearing?
well, it was just a continuation.
Yeah.
It was a continuation, so we're not
I will
necessarily.
make a motion to close the public hearing, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because we didn't make a motion to open,
continue.
we're still operating under the
Okay.
original
All right.
open of many moons ago.
We're not done yet.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
Yes, Commissioner Wolf, it's to continue
Okay. Till next time, okay. All right.
So
I
before we do
rescind
that, I
my
just want to say,
motion.
is there a last call for any current public comment or anyone online or any? Otherwise-
Mr. Chair, I believe you could close the public comment portion of the hearing and continue the hearing itself.
Okay, but we don't need a motion for that, right? Because we didn't need a motion to open it. So I will close public comment and look for a motion to continue the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, do we need a date and time specific in order to not notice?
Yes, we would. We are hopeful that we'll be able to come to an agreement with the city, that we could come back to the October 21st meeting.
Okay.
We could continue it till October 21st, and if we are not in the position to move forward, we could, or if we are still negotiating, we could continue it again.
Certainly. All right, Mr. Chair, I would, this could be a combination motion because I do think I need to move to close the public hearing or the public comment.
Okay? But we did not, I don't think we made a motion to open that.
Oh, we didn't.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Not
then we
today.
don't. Okay, well then, Mr. Chair, I will just move that we continue this, meeting until October 21st at 8 AM.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comment? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we'll kick that to 10:21. Item number 4, I will not miss that one.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion,
Second.
second, any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just say that the AMC Drainage Conference is being moved up to the end of January, and I know we often have staff attendees at that, so just wanted to bring that up before
Great.
we.
Thank you very much for that. Motion, second, any more discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Good morning. We are going to convene the September 16th, 2025 Regional Rail Authority meeting. Before we start that, I want to give everyone a reminder to please sign in as you come in or as you depart. Yes, I wasn't necessarily looking at you, but always the troublemaker, right? So, all right, are there any amendments to the agenda for the Regional Rail Authority meeting? I don't believe there are any for this one. So we're going to move to item number 3, looking at approve the minutes from the September 17th, 2024 Regional Rail Authority Board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 4th, 2024.
I know, yes.
That threw me off.
Yeah, I know.
Board meeting minutes.
Yep, not an
Second.
error. This is for last year. Sorry, we had a couple seconds there, so we're at thirds. Any discussion on those minutes? Otherwise, please vote it however you would like. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes pass. Now we're going to move to item number 4.1, looking at adopting resolution number RRA 2025-01, looking at establishing a final levy of $200,000 for 2026 for the Scott County Regional Rail Authority. Danny Lenz, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So yeah, we are here to establish the final levy for the Regional Rail Authority. So if you recall, last year, we established this for the first time in years for the 2025 budget year. And primarily, the purpose was to build potential future funding for the purchase of the Montgomery, New Prague, Union Pacific line. The potential abandonment had been raised in recent years, likely cost of more than $2 million. It aligns closely with the county's trail plan and connections to the southern pound of the county for the regional trail system. We don't have other funding sources that are readily available or adequate to fund this type of acquisition. And so this plan was to prepare for the future. There's potential opportunities to use these funds under different costs if we had more money available than needed. As we went through our budgeting process and based on the county's levy that we're going to be talking about at our next regular board meeting, we did have a reduction of $200,000 for the final levy for this. This does keep the funding in place, if yet reduced, but it still builds up that fund balance for this future purchase, if just at a little bit slower pace. And then this map just shows the county's regional trail system plan in the kind of highlighted yellow there, and you see the rail line is in that orange color, so this aligns very closely with that plan. So you know that plan can move as we look at property acquisitions, those sorts of things, so this really prepares us for the future if and when that line is abandoned. So with that, staff recommends the board adopt resolution number RRA 2025-01, establishing a final levy of $200,000 for 2026 for the Scott County Regional Rail Authority for the purpose of inclusion in the proposed property tax statements.
All right, thank you very much. We have a resolution before us. Are there any questions for Danny? Mr. Lenz? Yes.
Just a question here that, it's 200,000. And let's say something does happen where it's all of a sudden a couple $1 million of something expense, an abandonment or whatever happens of a rail line. Can this fund a bond? Can this be a bond source to
Yes,
fund
this
a bond
can.
if we needed it?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or clarification? Otherwise, we have a resolution before us.
Mr. Chair, I would move we adopt resolution number RRA 2025-01.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution passes. With that, we look at, yes.
Chair, when I made the motion to approve the minutes, I
Yes.
stated the date incorrectly, so I don't know if we need to go back and have a correct motion.
Well,
I thought you
okay.
restated it.
Yeah, I restated it, but I didn't make the motion, so,
I think she restated it.
okay.
Yeah, I thought so too.
But
good?
thank you for that, yes. So with that, item number 5,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Rail Authority is adjourned. All right. Now, shift over to paper. We are still good, we are still green. We are going to convene right into the September 16th, 2025 Scott County Board of Commissioners meeting. I should bring this into order. We're going to convene this meeting. Before we do the pledge, I've just been thinking a lot lately, as we all have. Thinking about what to say, what to do, what not to say, what not to do. It's been a jarring summer, to say the least, in Minnesota and certainly the country. I mean, I think of doing a moment of silence. I don't remember what we did. We did something, you know, when our own legislators were hunted down and killed in their own, shot and killed in their own homes with Hortmans and Hoffmans. I shouldn't say most recently, but Annunciation, we have words put on bullets, targeting our kids in schools and churches. Two lost their life. One is still in the hospital. Countless others injured. Transit killings. We see all these things in the news. Charlie Kirk assassination. Last night, I guess I've been under a rock. You know, major shootings in our own city. I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? And these are my words, I should say. This is just something that I feel heavy on my heart. So, what are we doing? Like, what do you want us to do, Lord? What do you want me to say? And so I was thinking, like, okay, prayer, moment of silence. And I opened up my Bible app, little daily devotion I do in the morning. And today's title was Overcoming Evil with Good. And I thought, well, Lord, your timing is always perfect. So maybe I'll just read that. And again, as always, if it's not your thing, enjoy a 30-second hiatus. If it is your thing, feel free to read along. I'm going to read this passage. It's out of Romans 12, and it's a translation called the Message, which is just common language translation of a Bible, and sometimes it just rings a little bit differently. But it says, bless your enemies, no cursing under your breath. Laugh with your happy friends when they're happy. Share tears when they're down. Get along with each other. Don't be stuck up. Make friends with nobodies. Don't be the great somebody. Don't hit back. Discover beauty in everyone. Discover beauty in everyone. Not some, not just that group or that group. Discover beauty in everyone. If you got it in you, get along with everybody. Again, if you've got it in you, get along with everybody. Not somebody, not those that look and whatever like you. And don't insist on getting even. That's not for you to do. I'll do the judging, says God. I'll take care of it. Our scriptures tell us, and this is into verse 20 and 21, our scriptures tell us that if you see your enemy hungry, go buy that person lunch. Or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good. And I thought, what a perfect reminder for the world we're living in. And it gave me, a challenge of sorts. Like, I always need to remember, and I'm going to encourage us all, if you're on the blue team, awesome. Maybe think about praying if that's your thing, or thinking about if that's your thing. Someone on the red team, by name and by face. And vice versa. If you're on the red team, maybe think about praying for or thinking about someone on the blue team, by name and by face, and their families. Because when public discourse is gone, like, you can't even have two open mics, me on one end or Charlie Kirk or anybody else, and invite other people to talk, that you have to put words on bullets these days. Like, what are we doing? So I just felt it heavy to talk about those things, and difference changes, it makes a difference with each one of us. So we're about to do the pledge, one nation under God, and it just doesn't quite feel like that right now. So what can I do? What can we do to bring that about? One nation under God. I just feel like we need to make that change. So I wanted to say that. So Thank you for indulging me. Again, those are my words. If that wasn't your thing, I hope you figured out what your grocery list was. If it is your thing, let's be better together. All right, with that, please join me in the pledge. Thank you so much. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, now this one, we're going to move to item number 2, amendments to the agenda. I believe there may be some amendments to this agenda, so I'm going to look down to my left. Are there any amendments to this agenda?
Mr. Chair, there are 2 amendments to this agenda that we did post online yesterday, but did not make the agenda announcement. The first one would be to add agenda item number 8.12, and that is to approve the appointment of a citizen to an advisory committee to the Lower Minnesota River Watershed District. And the second agenda item number is 8.15, and that is to approve the modification to our 2025 board meeting schedule. And we approved that on January 7th, and we are adding a joint board meeting with the Shakopee City Council on October 1st, 2025. And we determined that since this is a change to that schedule and this is the last board meeting before that, we needed to add that to our agenda.
And so do we have new agendas? So I can read that particular item on the consent? And then, I'm sorry, the first one was an 8.12.
2.
We already have an 8.12, so is it an 8.14? Because I have an 8.12 and 8.13 already on the agenda, and then with the joint meeting was gonna be 8.15.
Should be 1.5, yep.
So I think this one should be 8.14. We're gonna get there. I don't see my notes on this one, but we can get there. Oh, I see, this is the actual, so we need to restate that? 8.12 will be 8.14.
Correct.
The new 8.12 will be 8.14. See, we're gonna get there. Working together. I love it. I love it. Okay, so those 2 amendments on the agenda for consent
Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the agenda with those 2 amendments.
of 8.14 and 8.15.
Correct.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion on those amendments? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, so the new amended agenda will move forward. So I'm sorry, I'm on the 8s. Now we're gonna move to item number 3, the approving the minutes of the September 4th, 2025 board meeting minutes, just not to confuse them with the Rail Authority.
Mr. Chair, I will move approval of those September 4th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion on those changes? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. Item number 4, we got a full room, so maybe, we're gonna look at recognition of interested citizens. If there's anyone who would like to address the board on any matter that is not on the agenda, this is your time. We'd love, we'd love a viral moment that maybe we can, I don't know if this is gonna be you, the viral moment, but welcome.
Hopefully not.
Right. We want to get some viewers. We
I'm a
wanna get
little
some
nervous.
viewers.
I've never done this before, so bear with
Welcome.
me.
Yes,
Bear with
we'll
me.
bear with you.
Thank
We're here with you. You're
Thank
here
you.
with us. Welcome. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Okay. Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Bucco, and I have lived in Shakopee for the past 16 years. This Friday marks my 9-year work anniversary here at Scott County in Health and Human Services. In those years, I've seen firsthand how well this board manages its resources. Our tax dollars are invested where they matter. Our roads, schools, libraries, parks, and many other services that make this a great place to live. But what truly makes those investments work are the people that deliver them. Scott County employees deliver what matters here. To keep providing those services, we need to take care of the people who make them possible. As both a resident and an employee, I'm asking you to protect what we already do so well. Times are tough, I know. My own family feels it right now. But Scott County is resilient, and together we will get through it. We may think of ourselves as conservative, but the truth is we value investing in infrastructure, schools, healthcare, and the people who make those services work for us. Those investments are not just expenses. They are the foundation of our quality of life here in Scott County. I love living and working in Scott County. Please, we cannot afford to lose what we've built. I urge you to approve the maximum levy to keep our community moving forward. Thank you for your leadership and for your continued commitment to making Scott County a great place that we can all be proud to call home.
Thank you
all I
very
have.
much. Thank you. Any other takers on our open mic moment? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 5.1 to receive an informational legislative update from the Minnesota Intercounty Association. Welcome. Mr. Jessen, correct? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Nathan Jessen. I'm the Executive Director at the Minnesota Intercounty Association. First, I just kind of wanted to explain, so what is the Minnesota Intercounty Association? Just kind of the work we do. Voluntary organization of 17 of the largest counties in Minnesota outside of Hennepin and Ramsey, and we're really working on those statewide issues that affect our membership across counties, so we're not going to work on any specific like capital investment project at the Capitol representing a county, but we really try to represent the counties in our group on issues that have that broad impact, and we'll hear from some of our team today about that. And we'll have our team introduce themselves as they come up. One note, Amber Backus is in actually Washington, D.C. today, so she won't be here, so I'll be kind of covering her issues. But our work at the Capitol, we're in committee every day. We provide weekly updates via written updates to you all, and also monthly board meetings. We have the end of session update where we really try to put everything into one document. But where we're most effective is when we're relaying your personal stories or your individual stories from the county level to representatives and senators at the Capitol. So anytime we hear from you about like, well, here's what's happening on the ground in Scott County, and we're able to relay that to legislators at the Capitol, that's really got the most impact. In addition to making sure you're prepared and we can provide some insight on broad statewide issues when you're having conversations with your delegation. We also try to provide a little bit more analytical impact and looking at property taxes and data. I'll have a little bit more on that. Another thing that MICA provides is we're small enough that we can bring staff and commissioners together and really just trade stories and figure out, okay, how is it working for you over there? How's it working for you over there? And that happens with our statewide policy committees. I did want to provide, and I should say, before I keep going, if you ever want to stop me for a question, just interrupt me. I'm not going to take offense.
Thank you so much for that.
Just wanted to provide a picture of kind of what the net tax capacity looks like in Scott County compared to other collar counties, Hennepin and Ramsey, or the statewide average. And this is basically what you're taxing with your levy. And as you can see here, Scott County pretty closely mirrors the collar counties in general, a little bit higher on commercial industrial property. But this is essentially what you're taxing, when you're taxing with your levy. Obviously, Scott and the collar counties are more heavily residential than the statewide average. That's really the takeaway from that picture. Every year, values change, obviously. So I did want to provide a picture of what's happening with values in Scott County compared to those other groups in 2025. I should note that this is what's called constant class estimated market value changes, so it doesn't factor in new construction or when, like, let's say a commercial property becomes an apartment property or something like that. The ag increase in Scott County is really high, but it's a smaller piece of the pie. But I would say that in general, the numbers for Scott County are relatively good. On apartment property, we've seen a decrease in Hennepin and Ramsey for a couple of years now. That was reflected in some collar counties this year. But what I would say is that this is just a one-year snapshot. The 5-year average on apartment property, especially in the collar counties, has been really robust when you're looking at their growth. But of course, Scott County's still got an increase here. And just kind of speaking of the 5-year numbers, here's kind of a look at what Scott County's tax share has looked like over the last 20 years. And so while we've got these changes in estimated market value from year to year, on average, things tend to not change drastically. And you can see that here. Residential has always been the lion's share of the value, with commercial industrial property being the next highest. Well, I would say in 2023, you all probably remember there was a really big spike in residential values. I think it was 17.5% statewide, 23% in Scott County, and that always causes some issues and sticker shock. But since then, it's kind of started to level out a little bit more. So when you're looking at the kind of the property tax picture, those changes, even if the small shifts, they can be really significant and felt by individuals and businesses, but they don't tend, there's a lot of things affecting that, and there's not one underlying trend when you look at this kind of broader picture. I did want to talk about county program aid a little bit. At the legislature this year, there was a $20 million cut proposed to county program aid that did not become law. But I did want to also show the numbers for Scott County. So CPA essentially has two components, what's called county need aid, which is measured by what percentage of your population is 65 and over, or also the total share of serious crimes in the county and the number of households receiving SNAP benefits. Scott County's historically been one of the lowest receivers of need aid. But what I would say is that your need aid, which is 45% of the total, is actually pretty steady or slightly growing right now. Whereas in other areas of the state, we're seeing it decrease a little bit, particularly Hennepin and Ramsey. As you can see, Scott County's CPA is increasing relatively significantly in 2026, given that there was no increase to the statewide appropriation. And that's on the tax base equalization component, which is just basically your net tax capacity per capita. I would say that Scott and the Collier counties usually have done well by this metric, just because unlike other counties that maybe have more ag land or have more commercial industrial property, Scott and the Collier counties are more reliant on residential property. But if you're wondering, oh, why did it spike a lot this year or that year? The biggest spikes are when there's an increase to the appropriation. So in 2023, the legislature passed an $80 million increase. In 2019, there was a $30 million increase. So that's why those bumps are there. So Scott, below average on need aid, above average on tax base equalization, comes up about to a little bit below average on net. I'll stop there just in case y'all have any questions, but not seeing any. So I talked a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about transportation. There were some investments in transportation this year, but on the whole, it was a tough time at the legislature just because, like with taxes, which was facing cuts, lots of committees were facing cuts. Transportation was looking at a $284 million general fund cut, which is pretty rare because most transportation dollars aren't in the general fund. So what resulted there was shifting back from, there's the dedication of auto parts sales tax. So a certain percentage of if you buy auto parts, goes to the general fund and a certain percentage goes to transportation purposes. The legislature scaled back the dedication to transportation this year. They offset it somewhat with EV taxes, but that was a significant change at the legislature this year when it comes to transportation. I would also say there was kind of a last-minute surprise bonding bill, which included $42 million in grants for those local projects, and they are starting to accept applications now for that money. But kind of I just want to talk about the big picture narrative of transportation at the Capitol this year, and there was a really big pushback on local decision-making when it comes to how a lot of legislators view dollars being spent at the local level, and that is reflected in the metro sales tax conversation. You all know in 2023, the legislature imposed the 0.75% for transportation purposes and dedicated 17% of that money to counties in the metro. This year, it was kind of proposed very much so at the last minute for that dedication be cut in half. So when we're talking about transportation in 2026 at the Capitol, one of our focuses is really going to be on educating legislators on, okay, like here's how these dollars are being spent at the local level, and try to make it clear, like, this is what the law says, and this is where we're following the law, and this is what we're doing over here, to make it clear that the way that these dollars are being spent at the local level matches the law that was passed in 2023, right? And trying to make sure we've had conversations with Representative Koznick and Representative Cagle and Senator Dibble and the Senate about just maybe we just bring in counties to talk about here's what's going on, here's how we're spending these dollars. It's not just for one purpose or another, they're being spent in different types of ways that really do meet the goals of that 2023 law. So I want to pause there before I pass it off to my to Nancy Selesky, who covers HHS issues for us, but. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I am Nancy Selesky, and I handle both Public Health and Human Services for MICA, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Good morning.
I was just going to say that going into the legislative session this year, all of the county groups had the three same HHS priorities, and I'm happy to say that we did make progress in all three of them. The first one you've heard forever and ever, and that is SSIS, the IT system that counties have been struggling with for years and years, the green screen technology. Legislature did end up putting $35 million into the bill this year, and that along with $10 million from last year gives us $45 million, which will allow us then to draw down those federal funds. So we were happy with that. I would just say that I think we're a little bit a ways from seeing that progress in terms of those dollars. The dollars are there, but there's some vendor has to be selected, RFP has to go out, federal approval has to be done, so we're probably a little bit of a ways away from it, but happy to see that we've made that progress. The second item I would mention is that counties had a MnChoices reform bill that we brought forward this year, and there were a number of things that were included in that bill. For one, the first one was for those folks whose situation, physical situation or emotional situation does not change from year to year, we only have to do an abbreviated reassessment for those folks for 3 years in a row, and then that would be followed by a full assessment after that. The client can ask for a full reassessment at any time, but if they don't, we can do this abbreviated assessment. The second item I would mention is they increased the ability for us to use remote assessments. They increased it from 2 to 4 consecutive assessments, and then again followed by an in-person reassessment after that. Verbal attestation is something we talked about. That is replacing the actual signature from the client upon the service initiation. However, when the assessment has been completed, then the assessor has to have the client's signature within 30 days after that completion. They made some choices to the MnChoices assessment qualifications. The person has to have only a 2-year degree now, so that was a change, hopefully adding to the ranks of folks that can provide these assessments. And then DHS is required to create a dashboard on their website that will reflect the assessment completions. So those were the things that were in that bill. The third item is dealing with mental health issues, specifically priority admissions and direct care and treatment. There was a group that was put together, I think it's 2 years ago now, 2 years ago, that created a priority admissions review panel. And this came out of the 48-hour rule, which required folks that are in county jails to be moved to the top of the list to get into, as an example, AMRTC, the Anoka Metropolitan Regional Treatment Center. Along with that, we had a 2-year delay on that, but along with that, this work group was put together. So they did come up with some recommendations this year, and I just want to mention that the legislature put $20 million into AMRTC. There's going to be a new Miller building. $20 million was included there. And that was one of the recommendations of the work group. However, it was conditioned on capacity also being addressed, and that did get included in the bonding bill that did pass at the end of session. So with that $55 million in the bonding bill, that brings the total to $75 million, which will create an additional 50 beds at AMRTC. The Priority Admissions Review Panel does continue, and there's a report due in February. One of the things that didn't happen that I want to mention is counties have had a 2-year reprieve for those folks that have been committed as mentally ill and dangerous and are sitting in one state-operated facility, AMRTC as an example, awaiting a bed in another, say St. Peter. We, for the last 2 years, have not had a county cost share relative to that. And our argument has been we have no ability to effectuate a transfer from a state-operated facility to another. So we have enjoyed that reprieve for the last couple of years. They did not extend that this year. So effective July 1st, we are picking up that cost again, which is estimated at $14 million for the first biennium and 18 in the second. And finally, I would just mention that we all know that resources are needed at the community level as well as the state level, and that is something that was not addressed yet either. Moving on, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of order here, I apologize. I had a couple of priority issues that I wanted to mention relative to public health. The EMS, Ambulance Services System, has been in financial crisis for some time. The legislature did respond to that this year by putting $16 million into an operating deficit program. And then they've also created a rural EMS uncompensated care pool. And there's money coming from both the general fund as well as the healthcare access fund. So that is something that they did prioritize this year. The second item I would mention related to public health is last year there was a cut to cannabis-related prevention. Those dollars were going to both local governments as well as the tribes, and the cut was $10 million for the biennium last year. The legislature did partially fund that again this year, or refund that again this year at $7.2 million for the biennium. So I wanted to mention those couple of things. And the next item you've also all heard about, and we're very much active in a response, and that was cost shifts. If you look at the next slide. Okay. There we go. It's the colorful slide. You'll see the proposals from the House, the Senate, the governor, and then the gold column is the spreadsheet that the legislature agreed with. And as you can see, there were a number of increases proposed in all of those proposals, and I can say that those were tempered pretty significantly if you look at the bottom line in the gold column. A couple of things I would just mention that were not included in this was there was no waiver, county cost share related to waiver residential services. That is, I just want to point out the second number in the gold column. The legislature, in response to that, created a work group, and that work group is charged with finding $90 million by 28-29 in Health and Human Services savings specific to long-term care. So that's the number that we're looking at. They're booking $90 million in savings. That work group is, we had 6 county folks that are on that work group, and Commissioner Weckman-Brecky is one of them that has been appointed, and so there'll be a number of meetings starting relative to that. We've got a couple years to solve this problem, but as you can see, that number is rather large. The other thing I would mention is there was a proposal to increase the county cost share for the sexual MSOP program. That was not included. And also no withdrawal management county cost. That was another thing that was proposed. You can see the third number in the right-hand side. That is the reflection of our picking up that county cost relative to the MIND population. And then I would just point out the $18 million in 28-29, that has to do with min choices again. There was a proposal that was included that DHS is to come up with a reimbursement methodology for reimbursing counties for this. Currently, counties are reimbursed by the random time moment study. This would, I think they're looking at more of like a flat fee, but the department is to come up with that proposal, and that would ultimately save $18 million a year in or for the biennium in 28 and 29. So that was kind of the cost shift thing I would mention. I want to thank all of you because the legislature heard from all of you, and it was all hands on deck on cost shifts this year. So thank you, and to all of your staff that did come to the Capitol. Okay, then we're going to shift a little bit into 2026 and what we see some of the priorities are so far. We have taken some recommendations that came from the board level as well as the administrators and our committees. And one of the things that we, probably the main thing, is the act. That is the African American Family Preservation Act that passed. There were no changes made to that this year. We did bring it to the attention of several legislators that were very concerned about being ready for this, that it goes statewide on January 1st of 2027. There's currently a pilot program that both Hennepin and Ramsey are involved with, and we are following that closely, trying to determine what the findings are with them. But we are, like I said, very concerned that we might not be ready. Again, goes into effect in January of 2027. This work group does have four commissioners on it. I just want to mention the MICA commissioners are Otter Tail County Kurt Mortensen, Washington County Carla Bigham, and then they join Hennepin County Commissioner Angela Conley and Joan Lee from Polk County as the group that's working on that. They have an interim report that's due in January of this next year. I've been following the group, and I can tell you that it's been going very slowly. One of the things that we are very hopeful is going to come out of it is that the state is going to do the case review of these things, because that will be a costly endeavor. When we brought that up this year, the state kind of said, yeah, that's going to cost money. And we're like, yes, exactly. It's going to cost counties money if the state doesn't take it. So we need funding. The state should do that. And then possibly looking at, maybe could we do a phase-in or something for other counties if we're not ready in January of 2027. So we will see what comes out of the work group recommendations, but that is where that is. The other item I would just mention again is the LTSS Advisory Council. This is, again, the group that's charged with finding savings within HHS. In addition to Commissioner Weckman-Brecky, Nicole Hansen, the Otter Tail County Administrator is the other MICA appointee. And then the two AMC appointees are Terrell Clark from Stearns County, Alex Coetzee from Ramsey County, this Ramsey County CFO. And then we have MAXA appointments from both Hennepin and Pine County. So we have the smaller counties, the larger counties, and suburban counties all covered there. So we will see what comes out of that group. Also waiting to see what comes out of the Priority Mission Task Force recommendations. Again, I think one of our priorities is trying to get that county cost share relative to the MIND population relieved. We will see where we get with that. And then we are hearing a lot from commissioners about unfunded mandates. And so we're in the process again of developing that. The other thing that I would mention is we don't know exactly what is going to happen in terms of the federal interactions related to Medicaid. We know that counties are picking up additional responsibilities. Eligibility now has to be done twice a year, work requirements, things like that. So we know that there's going to be a cost associated with that. So we'll be working on that, as well as SNAP, which, as you know, is a federal program, but all of a sudden we are picking up the brunt of that. So those are the things that we are talking about. I would say also that the Senate has appointed a subcommittee to look at the federal impacts. It's being led by Lindsay Port from, she's got Dakota. Does she have part of Washington and Scott? Scott and Dakota, yep. And then Carla Nelson is the Republican lead, and she's Olmsted County. So we do have that to look forward to as well. Finally, I just want to call out your staff. Commissioner Barb Weckman-Brecky, of course, is at all of our meetings and very much present, has a presence at the Capitol. I want to mention Barb Dahl, Perry Mulcrone, Suzanne Arnson, Lisa Brodsky. Work very closely with all of them, and they are just a phone call away. And just want to say thank you for allowing them to participate as much as they do, because they are very much part of our process, but also very valuable for counties statewide.
Agreed.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Emilio.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Look at this partnership here, love it.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. My name is Emilio Lamba. As was previously on the slides, I serve as an informational resource for MICA on public safety and corrections. So I apologize for not having a slide with my update, but if there's any questions, feel free to throw them at me. So looking back at last session, it was a big of a status quo area in our public safety space. Although we had a substantial target and probably and the highest amongst many other committees, most of that, if not all that funding, was dedicated to shoring up our state agencies. DPS, as well as the Department of Corrections, had substantial operating deficiencies, as well as operating requests into the legislature, which in turn resulted in the decommissioning of our Stillwater prison in our state. Looking into the future, though, we are keeping our eye on the Larry R. Hill Reform Act. This was something that was passed last session that was for local county jails, was requiring the providers within there to consult providers that are outside the original prescribers of medications for individuals that come into the facilities. This caused a lot of challenges, one because providers are concerned about the increased liability with them having to administer medications even if the individual in front of them, they may need to make a different medical decision for. We've already seen in some of our counties, providers pulling out of our county jails. That is going to have a significant cost. So the Sheriff's Association has been in a lawsuit since the passage of that. There was a decision made to uplift the temporary restraining order. And so currently, right now, the law is in effect, and there is a hearing set for early October for them to make a final decision on whether or not the lawsuit will be dismissed. So we're going to continue to dedicate time with our sheriffs to look at what going into this next legislative session can alleviate some of that burden and maybe bring back some of our providers who were not consulted during the previous legislative session. There also are a flurry of DOC proposed rulemaking changes for our county jails as well. These might have indirect impacts onto our counties, but we are following the sheriff's leads on that. They had put out about a 60-page list of proposed rulemaking, which is their delegated authority from the legislature. Things such as staffing ratio changes, things that might involve the division of certain duties amongst some staff. So we're continuing to monitor that with our sheriffs. One thing that did get raised to a pretty high level since its passage in not this last session, but the previous, was the age of delinquency change. Raising that from 10 to 13 has caused some extreme concerns. The Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee put together a work group to take a little bit of a longer look at this. We had concerns and pushed at the passage of this for extended resourcing and a work group to be put together. JJAC stepped up and put that together themselves. Looking at that, though, there's a lot of concerns that we're now removing this age range of 10 and 11-year-olds from very, very important diversion programs that were previously within our criminal justice space, and now shifting them over into the DCYF and child protection space with little to no resourcing that is available for them there. This has a lot of concerns, and we want to ensure that not only is there resourcing, but that they are consulting the experts that had these kids in the criminal justice space for some time and ensure that they are serviced to the best ability as possible. There also is a bunch of deliverables coming out of our Community Supervision Advisory Committee. We have the wonderful Commissioner Weckman-Brecky on that as well as Scott County's Molly Bruner, Community Corrections Director, who is not only a leader within Scott County, but also at a statewide level through the Minnesota Association of Community Corrections at counties, where she served as president over the years. So I want to give kudos to her because she has led us with grace and a lot of integrity. We're looking at a lot of those deliverables that are coming out that are going to set statewide supervision standards, amongst many other things. These deliverables are being put together by county employees with our commissioners as well to review them. So we do have a lot of input there. We just want to ensure that any changes are going to be well resourced and not leave our counties in a gap if there is more capacity that is required from us. Lastly, what I will mention is there are discussions to resolve the Armor radio system issue at the legislature currently. We've heard a lot from Chair Latz about potentially utilizing the 911 fees that folks see on their cell phone bills to either have an increase or additional fees to help ensure that we are able to continue our Armor radio system upgrades across the board, understanding that the longer we wait, the more expensive that is going to get. They also are looking to use some of that funding for crime victim services. I think a lot of county groups would like to see them utilize some of that funding for an expansion of our emergency response system. So all the way from our Armor radios, all the way to maybe potentially emergency medical services and even emergency management. But those are conversations that are being had currently. So if there are any other questions from folks?
I have one question, I had meant to ask you this at the recent AMC conference, but there was an Elton John piano sighting right down the hall, so I had to run and see what that was all about. Maybe that'll come up later, but, in the public safety room, did it feel like the passion was a little higher?
It was certainly higher
The
this
blood
year.
pressure was a little higher of like,
was.
and I think I heard the word pushback and it didn't come from me.
Yep.
Like, it seemed different. It seemed a little more targeted, a little more, like, enough.
Yes, and I certainly think there's been some constraints, and we also wanted to be strategic in ensuring that there was an open dialogue for folks to share that. And I think you saw that in the room, passing the mic around, allowing folks to really share and get out what that buildup that they've had over the last few years, especially with these changes, whether from the DOC or indirectly from other agencies that have really strained our public safety space. So I think as far as our priorities through AMC in collaboration with Micah, I think we're going to have a big session ahead of us.
Yeah, we need to keep the push going, so, all right, that was my question. Any other questions for Emilio?
Thank you.
Otherwise, thank you so much.
All right.
Morning.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Sosnowczyk, and I am Micah's Environmental Liaison at the Capitol. Great to be with you this morning. So my hope is that I can provide just a little bit of an update on some of the kind of issues and different groups that we've been tracking over the interim, and then just a little bit of an outlook for issues that we expect to be focusing on in 2026, knowing that we're still in the kind of agenda development process and some of the details are yet to be worked out. So first, there are a number of relevant work groups, advisory boards, who are looking at implementation of previously passed legislation relevant for our environment agenda, or are tasked with making recommendations for possible future legislation. And so over the interim since the end of session, I have been monitoring the activities of these different groups. So just a few examples. So in 2024, the legislature passed the Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act to establish product stewardship around paper and packaging products, and really bringing in the kind of industry, the producers of those products into the kind of the waste management, both the costs and just kind of the activity of managing those products when they get to the end of their life. And so that advisory board has met now, I believe, 4 times in 2025. And so as we think about, the importance of the success of that legislation, that was a heavy lift that Micah and other county voices were very integral in passing that legislation in 2024. And so we really want to see the implementation of that law be successful. And then obviously, right, we want that to be successful because, after it's been in place for a few years, that will ultimately bring costs down for counties who right now are really bearing the brunt of managing those solid waste costs. And so very interested and wanting to make sure that there is good progress there. Similarly, we've also been looking at there's a critical materials recovery task force. And so as we think about other types of product stewardship legislation last year, there was a conversation around batteries and electronic waste, and taking that same model from paper and packaging products and trying to put that towards other items, especially when it comes to the electronic waste. We know that that's both incredibly costly for counties to manage that waste and also dangerous, right? There's a lot of safety concerns if that's not handled properly or not disposed of properly. And so this critical materials recovery task force is thinking about some of these same things and will be making recommendations to the legislature. Those are due by the end of this year. So also tracking that conversation. And then finally, we also look at the Clean Water Council. Protecting our water resources is a big part of Micah's environment platform. We are lucky that 2 of our board members are on the Clean Water Council and so responsible for helping make those recommendations. The bulk of the funding from the bulk of the clean water funds were appropriated during the 2025 session, over $300 million over the next biennium. But there is an opportunity for there to be perhaps supplemental funding in this next session. And so we are generally just very aligned in wanting to make sure that the legislature passes the Clean Water Council's recommendations. And so helpful to just kind of see how that group is progressing and the issues and things that they're talking about and the recommendations they make as we head towards 2026. Solid waste policy and funding, I have no doubt will continue to be a priority for Micah and I think for counties in general, especially as we get closer to the 2030 recycling goal deadline for counties to meet their state mandated recycling goals. And we will continue to make the case that if counties are being tasked with meeting these goals, that they should also be receiving additional resources to help get us there. And I think, yeah, again, as we get closer, that argument will just become even stronger at the legislature. And, this is true of all of MICA's environment priorities. They play out across a number of different committees, and this is, true just even looking at solid waste. So there's a few different places in 2026 that will be having conversations with legislators. 2026 is the even years, right? It's a non-budget year, so typically we expect there to be a conversation around a capital investment bill. We got a sort of last-minute bill that passed in 2025. And I think the expectation, since that was a little bit of a smaller bill than some legislators were advocating for, is that we will see another, kind of small to medium-sized bonding bill in 2026. And so we will be pushing for investment in solid waste infrastructure. There's a little bit of money in the 2025 bill, around $6 million for the capital assistance program for CAP funding, which I believe Scott County received a portion of that fund, of those funds. But we know the need is much greater than that, and it's statewide. So the MPCA has submitted sort of their high level, like this is what the need is, and they've requested $55 million in CAP funding in a potential bonding bill. So it's much greater than just the $6 million that was passed this year. They've also requested around $120 million specific to construction and demolition landfills. We've shared with staff, with county staff, that the MPCA is proposing some rule changes for C&D landfills. And so they know that those changes come with a cost. And so I think that's going to be an ongoing conversation as well, specific to capital investment. In the tax committee, we will continue our push around SCORE. There is, $32 to $33 million in solid waste management tax revenue that just gets deposited into the general fund, and who knows how it's spent. And counties have long been advocating to move all of that fund, all of the solid waste management tax collections into the environmental fund to be distributed to counties through SCORE grants so that they can make more investments in, helping meet those state recycling goals, household hazardous waste collection, all of these things that we know are important to move waste up the waste management hierarchy. And we have seen broad bipartisan support, support in both chambers. The leaders of the taxes committees have asked us to keep that conversation going. They know how important it is, and everyone kind of agrees in theory that that's something that should happen. I think, we've talked a little bit, both during session and kind of in the wrap up, that the budget situation at the state is just not super conducive to finding an extra $33 million that we can take from the general fund and put towards this work. And so that, I think, is going to be our biggest struggle, is the money. We are also tracking the Public Utilities Commission. There's a docket, actually, they had extended a public comment period, I believe just closed on Friday, or it's closing soon if it hasn't already, around how they're defining the state's carbon-free standard and whether or not burning solid waste or woody biomass can count under that carbon-free standard, and really if they're taking a full kind of life cycle analysis. And so counties have been active in arguing that, burning waste, solid waste, and waste to energy is certainly better than putting that waste into a landfill in terms of the impact on the environment. And so the PUC will be considering the comments that they've received, and we expect a ruling on that by the end of the year. And so if there is any sort of response needed at the legislative level, that will be a conversation with other counties, so that we're all, if we need to push for something, that we're working together, and just addressing that to protect waste to energy in the state. And then I mentioned the possibility of supplemental clean water funding. That just has historically been, when we think about addressing water contamination from nitrates, PFAS, things like that, that's just been a big source of funding. And so we will continue to monitor and make sure that there's some good things happening if there is going to be a supplemental clean water fund appropriation. And that's it for me, unless folks have questions.
Members, any questions for Rachel?
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just wrap it up here with a couple more topics and then big picture stuff. At the legislature last year, the probation officers were seeking a increased pension benefit through higher employee contributions. Para raised concerns about other parts of that plan, so they often, as what often happens to the legislature, they kicked it to a working group. That working group's been meeting since July. We met yesterday. Micah's top priority when it comes to anything like this is trying to hold employer contributions stable because, those are ultimately reflected in your property tax levy. But they're going to be issuing a report by next February. We'll keep you posted on how that develops. I did want to just talk really big picture. So like after all that stuff, where does that leave us as far as what does the budget picture look like, right? So I want to draw your attention to just kind of the first two rows here. And this is projected revenues for the state. This is all just general fund data and projected spending that the state is having. So we came into last session with a short-term temporary surplus, a long-term structural deficit of around $5 billion, depending how you count it. And as you can see, we've still got this imbalance of about $2 billion for each of the next two biennia. The good news on the short-term front is that for 26-27, the legislature's already covered that deficit. So it's really just the long-term, 28-29, that's the number that matters more there. If you look at kind of the row surplus after carry forward covers and balance, so that's how much money's left on the bottom line after the 2025 session, about $1.9 billion, after they've covered that structural deficit just for 26-27. So, I mean, that's a pretty big number, but what I would say is that it doesn't factor in inflation. In 2023, the legislature decided to incorporate inflation on their forecast and made this a little bit more complicated. And that it's worth noting that, last year at the Capitol, there's this talk of this long-term structural deficit. The surplus after carry forward that they carried forward last time was $3.7 billion, right? And just a lot of that got eaten up by covering that deficit on a short-term basis. So, I mean, the state is still facing structural budget issues. We do have that budget reserve of $3.2 billion. That's at the max it can be right now. That's a percentage of the state general fund budget overall that it's essentially capped at. These numbers are all going to change. There's going to be a new economic forecast that comes out in the first week of December. And since then, revenue reports are sometimes up, they're sometimes down. That's just one side of the equation. It doesn't factor in spending, those monthly revenue reports that we get on general fund revenue. And the last time we got an economic forecast was in February. Since then, the U.S. economy in general is showing a little bit lower growth and higher inflation. We've kind of talked about some of these things, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about them. But we're in kind of a season of special elections. There's one today, and there will be at least two more in November, depending on how certain elections pan out. There may be more special elections after that. We've got Representative Zach Stevenson was elected the new leader of the House DFL caucus. Right now, there's a lot of discussion about, are we going to have special session? And I don't have a crystal ball on that front. I would say that the previous governor often talked about, we might need a special session for this. It seemed like every month back from 2015 to 2018. This governor hasn't done that as much. He said he's calling it regardless. There's still a lot of details to be worked out as what would that look like, but I don't have a crystal ball. The one thing I would say is that the legislature comes back on February 17th. That's pretty late even for an even-numbered year. Everybody's up on the ballot in 2026, House, Senate, all your constitutional officers. Typically that results in less stuff getting done at the Capitol, frankly. You all know that. So it's just the political dynamics and the budget dynamics are tough in 2026. So I just want to make that clear. We are going to really have to prioritize and spend our fire accordingly to try to get as much done as we can for counties. And then we are going through our current policy process that runs from August to January. Starts with our board of county commissioners setting priorities, and they follow up as staff kind of work on some of the details and wording of our policy platform. And there's just our contact information. If you ever have any questions, concerns, suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My office number is on there, but especially for commissioners and staff, just you can reach out to me on my cell. That's going to be the fastest way to reach me. And my email's up there too.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I just would thank Nathan and staff. You know, I think over the past year, there's been a lot of complementary work with AMC and Micah working together, each taking things to do, and that's benefited us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it does feel like, and this, I guess I'll rephrase this in a question. I mean, do you feel like we're making the collective us, the associations and the counties, making a difference down there at the state?
Yeah, well, thank you, and thank you for those comments. First of all, I always really work on trying to prioritize our team. AMC is a team member,
Yep.
you know, and we're a member. We're all team county. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And one of the benefits is sometimes it's just helpful to have more voices at the Capitol representing counties. And I do think it makes a difference. Sometimes it's tough to feel it because some of the biggest difference we make, frankly, is on defense a lot of the time. I think if you look back at those county cost shift numbers that Nancy had on this spreadsheet, you look at especially where the House and the governor were compared to where we ended up, hundreds of millions of dollars of difference. You know, Amber and I worked a lot the last few days leading up to special session, as you all did, on pushing back on this 50% last minute reduction to the county transportation sales tax of counties that wasn't even introduced in a single bill, let alone in an omnibus, right? And we were able to get that out and against a really tough timeline. Like, it was really quick. So I do feel like we're making a difference, but sometimes it's tougher to feel like it when it's just like, look, things could have been worse, you know? So I understand that frustration, but I do think we are making a difference, and we really it's team county at the Capitol.
Well,
So.
and it feels like, I mean, last year definitely felt like a big push forward. More counties, more, you know, targeted, I don't even like to use that word anymore, but, you know, a push on common dynamics, common priorities. And I felt like I heard the phrase whiny counties more last year, which I'm starting to think like maybe that's a good thing versus, because we're like sick and tired of being sick and tired. So for your members, do you sense, like, we have some fun little discussions, I always ask, like, hey, what can we stop doing? Not to stop for stopping's sake, but to try to put that charge back up into the pipe. And it's a big pipe back to St. Paul. Like, are some of your members getting the point, like ask Emilio in the public safety, it felt like, you know, somebody else used the word pushback and it wasn't me. In some of your member counties and folks you work with, like, enough is enough. Like, this is not sustainable. Like, let's figure this out in a way that makes sense. Like, are we getting there? Or you feel like we're getting there versus just more and more and more and more, and here we are, none of it's sustainable.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of times it's been said, and you all have probably heard somewhere, like, counties are the invisible layer of government, right? You know, the federal government gets a lot of headlines, the state does, and the city is like, okay, we were talking about city stuff. But I think counties were a lot more visible this year, partly because of the proposals that forced us to be more visible, right? So I do think that at the county level, we are trying to become a little bit more visible. There's trade-offs with that, frankly, you know, but at a time when, you know, the federal budget bill, you know, did what it did in July, and the state budget picture is not great now, and it's not looking like that's gonna turn around. Just historically, when the state's been in a tough spot, it's often considered cost shifts onto counties, and we can't afford to be the invisible layer of government when, well, what does cost shifts onto counties mean? It means higher property taxes, you know, and that's one thing where it's like, sometimes I say cost shifts and sometimes I just say property tax increases at the Capitol. I mean, it varies from issue to issue, but yeah, we can't afford to be that invisible layer of government when that's the end result that they're thinking about.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, a lot of the change that seems to be made is on defense, and I can't help but wonder if we're probably haven't turned the tables, but are turning the tables where it's more offense that we can play. Because it feels like if counties could really get together on at least the same page or the same notebook, there's power there. There's power there. And to bring about some sort of sustainability in this taxing formula, I mean, holy cow. Because I have heard, you know, some of our delegation and others outside, hey, don't be so proud of your low tax rate. Use that tax capacity. Tax them. And I'm like, if you're so proud of your programs, own it. You own it and raise your Minnesota income tax. Be seen. Don't hide in this little invisible layer, because I don't think it's invisible to them, to citizenry, sure. So it's just like, enough is enough. This is not sustainable. And do you ever even hear that word down there? I don't, unless it's about some sort of environmental issue, but not when it comes to, who do we talk about? Mrs. So-and-so on Fourth Ave? So I'm just curious, like, you ever hear that phraseology, that sentiment down there? Like, are we, and I can't help but wonder, so two-pronged, maybe we take it on the offense.
Yeah, and I think that part of, we are trying to take it on the offense a little bit more in 2026, and maybe it doesn't mean like dollars, right? I mean, just because the budget picture is what it is, to be totally frank, and we'll always make push for dollars, especially in specific areas, but broadly, I think that a lot of it is gonna be education, frankly. You know, I talked about transportation, maybe it's just bringing counties in, talking about, actually, here's the good work we're doing with this money, and here's why, you know, this is a benefit to you and your committee should be happy about this. And here's the work that's being done on the ground. We're always going to try to push for dollars, especially if we're talking about like infrastructure, technology infrastructure, things like that. But I do think that for 26, if we're just talking 26 specifically, sometimes the way we can go on offense is just by bringing our stories to the Capitol, you know, even if there's not a big dollar sign at the end of a bill or something like that, so.
Well, I'm getting, out of my peripheral vision, I'm seeing a hook come out of the side. But are there any other questions before we, I have one last question.
I do want to
Oh.
thank Nathan and his
Yes,
staff.
for
You're
sure,
always
for sure.
available, you always answer questions, and Amber's leadership, you know, in that session last spring was really, really good. And so I do want to thank you for that. And yes, we do have to move on. We have a very couple important items, and we have a customer service that's hinging on that time down there, so.
But last big question, we're in the land of big fun, Mystic Lake, Canterbury. If you were to put it all on red or black for the outcomes of 26, where are you putting it? Or I should say blue or, well, no, we're not in there.
I don't have a crystal ball,
Yeah,
I
okay.
can't do that.
All right, that's fine, we'll let that one go. But thank you so much. We'll talk about that maybe offline, and thank you for your help in getting us all on the same page so we can make some difference for people of Minnesota.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, the hook did not come out, but it almost did. We're gonna move to item number 6, 6.1. Wait, are we gonna? Yeah, oh yeah, okay, people come on in. If people
Yes,
wanna
we
leave,
have
if you
some
wanna come on
folks
in.
here that need to come into the room here for 3 retirees.
Well, is there, I didn't know if I heard a silent motion, I'm kidding, a silent motion to kick this? I didn't know if I heard that or not, but otherwise, we're going to item number 6, fine, 6.1, recognition, is this real? Recognition of Scott County retiree Cindy Geis? Come on now. Is that for real? That's almost like a sighting of Yeti.
It's not
like-
allowed?
It's real, it's in print. I saw her earlier, where's she at? There she is, right there, front center. Yes, yes. Oh, I saw her earlier and then,
That's her husband Kenny.
yes. So come on in, everybody. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, please, everybody come on in.
Lots of seats up front yet.
Yep, there's lots of seats up front. Commissioner Brecky doesn't bite.
Great seats.
He's got a box of Kleenex.
Is that you doing that?
No.
Oh.
Hang on, Commissioner.
We got 3 up here, 3, 1,
Who's the usher here?
3.
Do we at least have speakers out in the hall? I forget.
Come on, if this was Rolling Stones, everyone would want those
You have
seats.
to be patient here.
Leslie's gonna go scoop any more in here. We're gonna get started here in just a moment. Commissioner Barb Weckman-Brecky is at the podium, ready to roll. 6.1, again, recognition, what? Of Scott County retirement, I'm gonna underline, what? That's crazy. Cindy Geis. Good for you. Good for you. Bummer for us. Few more people filing into this very full room. Still room, standing room only. Excuse me. Back hall has people.
So we do have several retirements, and we're going to get to those in a couple minutes. but we also have a couple of very special awards that our county board wanted us to bring forward today. And Commissioner Brecky is going to kick that off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and County Administrator. I am pleased today to present the Joseph F. Reese Excellence in Scott County Government Award to Cindy Geis. It's, every time we present this award, I say this, but Cindy's picture could go up with Joe Reese's picture about this award, because she exemplifies what this award is all about. The award requirements, recipients must have consistently demonstrated excellence in work performance, innovation, leadership, and achievement in services to Scott County residents, not to Scott County organization or Scott County board. This is about Scott County residents. Additionally, the award is intended to recognize individuals who drive improvements in operations, services, and cost savings, and it is the desire of the county board to nurture and maintain Joseph F. Reese's spirit of excellence and inspiration. Cindy Geis exemplifies everything this award seeks to recognize. In her career with Scott County, and we have a list of it starting from November 9th, 1993 that Leslie was going to go through, but in order, because of our time, we won't go through it. But if you want to talk about the different positions that Cindy has held here, we can do that. So in Cindy's career with Scott County, she has worked her way from a frontline position in Health and Human Services to county auditor, treasurer, and division director. The operative word in that sentence is worked. Cindy's career trajectory and her achievements were built on early mornings, long days, and late nights, filled with hard work and annoying texts from county commissioners. Wait, that wasn't in the script. Not unlike what's required to make a family farm successful, which Cindy knows a thing or two about. Cindy grew up just down the road from me on Zumbro Avenue. But for Cindy, the work has nothing to do with her career or personal achievements. It is all about working hard at work worth doing, working in service of others. There isn't anyone less entitled when it comes to expectations for advancement or recognition. Early in her career, a supervisor asked Cindy why she worked so hard, pointing out that all employees were paid regardless of their level of effort. Cindy responded that she didn't operate that way. She was here to give it all, every minute of every day. More than 30 years later, that mindset hasn't wavered a bit. Her work ethic, curiosity, dedication, determination, and high standards for herself and others are among the many qualities that set her apart. Employees throughout the organization see Cindy as a true role model, and we have spoken with many who hope to follow in her footsteps as they serve Scott County and its residents. Generally known as the most knowledgeable person in the state when it comes to property taxes, in fact, even developing a training program for the Department of Revenue, and recognized by the Minnesota Association of County Officers with their highest award, Cindy is a true expert in her field. She wields that expertise in a remarkable way. Rather than preserving the status quo, she challenges herself, her peers, her staff, and her elected officials across Minnesota to always be better, to do more, and find creative solutions. This is one measure of true leadership, the ability to make everyone around you better. Cindy does that. Cindy is a champion for Scott County employees, especially those on our team. She gets to know people, offers them unwavering support, and encourages them to be better than they think they can be, and provides them a safe place to land when things don't go their way. Actually pushes is more likely accurate than encourages, as anyone who has been encouraged by Cindy can attest to. But the important thing that is whether she is encouraging or pushing, her deep care for others comes through. I wouldn't be where I am today without her is a common refrain among those who work for her. Her team recognizes not only her commitment to excellence, but her heart as well. Another dimension of Cindy's leadership is her understanding of how each individual's employee's work is connected to other people's work, and how all those connections work in service of something larger than one individual or one department. She understands that good outcomes don't happen by luck. She's committed to setting deadlines, meeting them, and doing whatever is required. She also knows how to balance getting the work done with having fun, dressing up for Halloween, having parties to celebrate employee milestones, arranging bowling competitions, and boat rides at her and Kenny's home. Cindy builds a sense of community among employees. From Tyler to Workday, Cindy's gift for leading system implementation has served the county well. She adheres to good processes, communicates the why behind decisions, and works across divisions to get the right outcomes. Cindy is always looking at better ways for doing things, including how her and her team can support their division and the whole county. So Cindy has achieved so much, but she's made a real difference in the lives of so many. Over the course of her career, she's developed extensive knowledge of the organization, a passion for supporting and developing those around her, and an unwavering focus on improving outcomes for residents. Cindy has held herself and her colleagues to the highest standards, and in her tireless efforts to serve Scott County, she embodies the best that public servants can offer. Cindy is an accomplished leader who talks the talk and walks the walk of public service in a way that carries on Joe Reese's spirit of excellence and inspiration, and we are proud to nominate and provide her with this award.
Nice. Get some pictures.
Turn around. Come on, turn around.
Nice.
Is she speechless?
As I say,
That's a first.
yeah. No? Maybe after.
It's kind of interesting to do a Reese in a retirement at one time here, and now I'm really confused. Lori promised me I wouldn't get a HIPAA if I did this appropriately, so.
Nice.
I can't show the marks, but I can show some comments. And actually, the two people that I'm going to talk about today, because it's the supervisor gets the honor to talk at the retirement, if we can make it through it, both share, I think, some of these same work ethics and characteristics. Both of them in their final 2 years here at the county worked to grow their divisions, but they also took on additional roles within the organization and beyond their division director role to make sure we implemented some pretty important things. Cindy, of course, on Workday and some of our system, and Lisa on her project leadership skills and the successful completion of CARE and ARPA. So instead of repeating a couple of these comments, just their commitment to the org-wide goals is beyond expectations. Through budget challenges and county-wide needs, both of them stand up, they come to the table, they come with solutions. Both of them are what I would call workaholics. Long hours to study, to understand, to make us the best org we can be. They're willing to work out of their comfort zones and support other divisions and partners. And they're willing to teach and support and grow staff in their divisions and beyond their division. I think one of our young managers recently told me that Cindy really wanted me to understand tax rates. I've been here 40 years and I don't understand tax rates. She was really interesting in how she taught it and was concerned that I understood it moving forward. That just exemplifies, I think, Cindy. Cindy did start as a secretary too in 1993. She started her career with those humble beginnings at $7.92 an hour. I love looking at their applications and their reviews. So she just beat that $15,000 a year threshold in 93. She began as that secretary too in the financial clerical area. She was to handle all incoming and outgoing mail, update customer service records on the system, including Lotus. I'm pretty sure most of you don't even know what Lotus is. And C:/DOS programs. She was assisting financial workers and ET workers in memos. So this started on November 9th of 93. By January 10th of 94, she was already applying for a promotion to a tax specialist. And according to Cindy, my current position does not deal with figures, which I was not aware of when I took the position. My goal is to transfer to a department which I can use my training in numbers and continue with that department in all other function and aspects of that position. My ability to learn is quick, and I hope this will keep me in consideration for this position. And she wanted to work in taxes for her own benefit, plus other people during the tax season. Her wish became her career, and taxes became her life, and she learned them. We heard in the Reese Award about her dedication to quality improvement. Well, that started very early in her career. So, her first 3-month review, Cindy learns new tasks easily, will be an asset to the office. Her 6-month review, Cindy is learning the functions very well and understands quickly what is required of the job. I look forward to continuing to have her assume additional functions. This was my favorite, though. Cindy does a very good job on assignments given to her. She has enough concern to look for needed changes to procedures. However, she has a tendency to implement changes without discussing them with her supervisor. The communication needs to improve. But this next one, in my experience, probably exemplifies her the best. Cindy is working entirely above and beyond what she was hired to do. She has learned and taken on the responsibilities of reorganizing and establishing TIF procedures and files. She has learned completely and revised the calculation process with showing any prior knowledge of the old system, and her performance is outstanding. She will be an asset to the finance and to other divisions within the county. And I think for the last 32 years, nothing could be more true than that. She continued to grow throughout the years. I think she's the only person in the state that understands fiscal disparities, and she knew this by 1995, so like a year after. She understood the problems that arose for the public and helped to make changes, not even within her supervisory scope, by really being assigned to eliminate the row offices down below. In her own words, and I can't say it any better in 2002, as additional duties get added to my existing responsibilities, I research current statutes, policies, and processes in order to find the best possible means for implementation. Scott County continues to grow at a pace that is one of the fastest in the state. Our county policy does not allow additional staff to help offset this increase in workload in all departments. Therefore, it is essential for the departments to work as efficiently as possible in order to achieve the maximum potential from all. She goes on and has this understanding about the little white house that Commissioner Beer talked about earlier on 4th Avenue. Mm-hmm. And for the past decade, we have seen her work on systems from Life of a Parcel that included Tyler, Recordees, Infor, Workday. I personally thought we had an agreement she couldn't retire until Nova was done, which meant she'd be here forever, but I guess I didn't have that in her contract. I think all these old reviews just show the commitment she has to learning, improving, driving change, and wanting Scott County to be the best at everything we do. My first review was in 2011, and there I noted she comes prepared to meetings. I don't know who I'm going to rely on an agenda review to make sure those RBAs are reread with me, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. She never blindsided leadership. She always was ready to answer questions, and her belief in breaking down silos and resource sharing was second to none. When I look at each retirement, you've seen me do a few of these now, I'm getting tired of them. I look at our value statement, and Cindy truly exemplifies it. Customer to service, delivering in a respectful, responsible, and solution-oriented manner. Cindy made solution-oriented was in there. You add collaboration with that customer service, and now we've eliminated the row offices. We have tax and assessing, supporting one another instead of duplicating or redoing processes to be more efficient. And there is no one who communicated with her staff on management better than Cindy. I never had to worry that messages were getting to her division. She supports innovation and taking risks. In fact, she was ahead of her supervisors usually. So Cindy truly lived the county values in her day-to-day work here at the county. She was always looking for ways to share and improve. I don't think she has a selfish bone in the way she manages or supports the organization. And she has a countywide perspective. I'm personally going to miss you and all of the work and the things we've done. I hope we get to that 500 game someday. And being able to call you within 15 seconds and get an answer always was there. And we're going to miss your dedication and commitment. And our loss is certainly Kenny's gain. Now you're going to get to go fishing with him. I've always wondered if you're quiet on the boat, but I'm going to have to find that out.
There's your answer.
Enjoy all of those activities and events that you two look forward to with your kids and grandkids, baseball, the cabin, boating, playing cards. And we're going to miss you, but we're going to be forever thankful what you have done at Scott County for the past 32 years. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I think the board needs to come up for this.
What's happening? Can't believe it. I feel like I need to be giving one of those thumbs down again. Let's just draw this out.
Yeah, Cindy, the mic is yours.
Oh boy, did everyone pack a lunch?
Oh, boy. Danny says, did you pack a speech? Did you write a speech? And I'm going, I didn't because I know I couldn't read it anyway. Thanks, Janice. It seems like yesterday that I was starting my career here in 1993. I went out to lunch with the surveyor's office, and we started talking about back when Schmokel was here, back when we had the row offices. And we started talking about old times, and then how the county has transitioned over time, and how it's transitioned for the good. In many cases, we've changed, and we've put on a new face. And I look at all the faces that I see here today, the faces from the past, and how we're so much better than we were back then, and how I wish for each of you what I had when I went through my career here. I had all the support from you, and I had so much support from all of you. I look at you young people, and I'm going, this is our future. Mm-hmm. This is our future. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you. Each of you have contributed to my good fortune. And for that, I thank you. To my kids, thank you for all your support. You know, all those times where you saw me a little crazy, or a lot crazy, and you're like, oh God, they scattered like the wind. They came home eventually. Or as I remember when Brandon packed his bag because he was leaving, and he went to the end of the road, and he sat there for a while, and he came back. And I'm like, good luck, you can't come back. And to my husband, who always had my back, you're my forever. And we will have lots of wonderful times in the future. I hope and I pray that this county will continue to focus on all those things that I did back when I was a young manager, when I was just a young employee. Don't ever say it isn't a possibility, because it is a possibility. There are so many chances out there if you just are willing to go forward and take them. So take the risk, move forward, know someone's got your back. These people have your back, don't you? Mm-hmm. Of course you do. Yep. So I want to thank you all for having my back all these years. I want to wish you well in your careers, and I want to thank you for always supporting me in my career. And I want to thank all of you for supporting me in my career. Thank you.
I think so. Nice.
Well, I have the honor of presenting another Joseph F. Reese Award to Lisa Fries. And I think I've worked more with Lisa than just about any other staff person. And every time I attended a ribbon cutting or groundbreaking on a road project, I thought, man, they under-recognize the staff and over-recognize the elected officials. Some elected officials have probably had nothing to do with the project. And Lisa, this is kind of payback, sort of, to recognize you as you should have been recognized all these years for all that you've done. You know, the roads in Scott County and the way we get around and the development that's occurred. You know, a lot of it's the credit of your work and your team of all that you've secured for us. So it's my pleasure to read this letter of recommending you for this award. As noted in the award requirements, recipients must consistently demonstrate excellence in work performance, innovation, leadership, and achievement in service to Scott County residents. Additionally, the award is intended to recognize individuals who drive improvements in operations, services, and cost savings. And it's a desire for the county board to nurture and maintain the Joseph F. Reese spirit of excellence and inspiration. And Lisa, you exemplify everything this award represents. And we're thankful that. And the nominees for this award have been myself and Commissioner Brecky and Jake Gressing and Barb Dahl, but I think everybody in this room could sign on to this award. The county board could sign on to this award. We're all thanking you today. And, you know, we have categories of comments that we want to continue to highlight your work and so forth. The first is under the category of work performance. Over the course of her career, Lisa has been an exemplary and deeply knowledgeable public servant, bringing together years of invaluable experience at the city, county, and state levels. The breadth of knowledge allows her to see the big picture and balance local priorities with regional and statewide needs. She's a primary source of information to staff and elected officials, not only throughout the Scott County, but across the state. And her strong work ethic, evident in the hours she invests and the tenacity with which she approaches the projects and issues, results in well-informed decisions and ultimately positive outcomes for residents. You know, and as I've watched Lisa over the years, I just marvel because, you know, we got this amount of money and we got to get money from here and there and everywhere and all these pools of money. And I go, how is it going to happen? I mean, we're so far apart on the money, and she's gone all over and everywhere, you know, Washington and other pools and pots of money here and there, and cobbled together all these sources of revenue. And our transportation sales tax has maybe contributed a third or 20% of the cost, and we've leveraged to that. She's made that a great tool, you know, and she was part of our developing that, a key person developing the transportation sales tax and the program of projects. And so I've marveled over the years her work, but so I'll continue here. Lisa's performance in advancing critical transportation projects is particularly noteworthy. She played a central role in securing funding for Trunk Highway 169, Trunk Highway 13, and the Marion Junction Trail. She continues to advance planning and funding for future projects such as 35 and 2 interchange. Tom will be glad to hear about that. Demonstrating a combination of skills that have served her and the public well throughout her career, successfully delivering projects today while simultaneously planning for the future. And there's got to be a typo here. It says Lisa's work with Commissioner Ulrich. It shouldn't be with, it's on, I think. On Commissioner Ulrich, on the Technical Advisory Commission and the Transportation Board, has been instrumental in shaping the regional vision by contributing data-driven analysis. She's influenced regional solicitation processes that determine where millions of transportation dollars are invested. And boy, I tell you, we've battled together. There's been stuff that's on a knife's edge, whether it's going to get funded or not. And Lisa's worked, her with the staff and all the staff, both the Mid-Council and the county staff around the region. And things got pushed the right direction. So we've done very well, gotten more money than we would probably, based on population, than we would be entitled to. So we've done well. In addition, she led much of the research and documentation for the county's transportation sales tax, ensuring that these funds are effectively managed and leveraged to bring in additional state and federal resources. And one thing I like about where you guided us on the transportation sales tax is you said that, hey, let's use this money for more regional projects, the big roadways, the 169, 13, they're really not on our system. They're on MnDOT's system. But we sort of altruistically, with your guidance, chose to do those big roadways that benefit the public even more than the little roadways, the smaller roadways in our county. And other jurisdictions didn't take that approach, but I thank you that we did, and it's really paid off. The results of her planning are visible across the county's infrastructure. Thanks to her strategic investments in preservation and preventative projects, the county's pavement quality remains excellent, and corridor study implementations are underway on highways 169, 13, 17, 42, and 8, further improving safety and mobility for residents. Through every project, she demonstrates intelligent, critical thinking and determination. She gains fully with colleagues, openly shares her knowledge, and knows when to seek input from others. And boy, I've relied on her heavily to get input and wisdom. We all have. Leadership is the next category we want to comment on. Leadership is one of Lisa's defining qualities. She understands both the county's role and the broader regional vision, recognizing that true progress requires collaboration with multiple partners and accepting that a compromise is a key element of that work. Her leadership is grounded in values of cooperation, accountability, and continuous development. That collaboration has kind of been a hallmark of our county, that we seek to be collaborative and collegial and work with our partners, whether they're in county or out of county, and Lisa's been a key leader in that. Lisa's ability to prioritize and focus resources precisely when they are needed has been critical to the county's success. She's not afraid to say no when necessary, ensuring that both her division and the county make sound long-term investments. During the pandemic, she stepped up to carry a significant portion of the load related to the CARES and ARPA funds, helping the county to implement priorities at a critical moment. She personally worked on administering projects while also guiding her staff to project management, land acquisition, and technical support. She fostered a culture of collaboration, ensuring that her division recognized the importance of working with partners and consultants to achieve shared goals. Her leadership also extends beyond transportation. The Highway Department has played a key role in implementing park and trail projects, including Cedar Lake, Spring Lake, Doyle Kennefic, and the Merriam Junction Trail. Colleagues value Lisa's accurate, timely, and impartial perspective. When she speaks, she brings the rest of the story, providing information that deepens understanding and supports sound decision-making. Her contributions continually shape meaningful outcomes for the county. She also cares deeply about her colleagues and her team as individuals and takes time to know and support them. She advances the desired culture by supporting fundraising efforts, organizing staff activities, and promoting initiatives that build morale across the organization. Next category is innovation. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Lisa's career is her innovation. She approaches challenges with creativity, resourcefulness, and a system-thinking mindset. She understands how transportation, housing, parks, and community services overlap, and she works to integrate solutions across systems. That creativity resulted in the successful implementation of multiple initiatives, from implementing the Hopscotch van program and leading transit planning at Southbridge in collaboration with the Met Council to identifying opportunities to use highway right-of-way for trust homes. Lisa often makes her extraordinary ability to maximize resource, find efficiencies, and anticipate long-term trends seem routine. Her leadership in ARPA and CARES projects reflected both innovation and accountability. She was proactive in identifying concerns around potential fraud and putting safeguards in place to protect public funds. I could have a little commentary here on that, protecting government funds, but I'll resist. You did a good job, great job. And she invested in her staff, equipping them to manage complex projects and grow their expertise. Although her participation wasn't always widely visible, it's absolutely true to say that her participation made projects like Hope's Portage and the Integrated Healthcare Center possible. In every respect, work performance, leadership, and innovation, Lisa has distinguished herself as an exceptional public servant. She's intelligent, dedicated, collaborative, and forward-thinking. Her contributions have improved transportation, strengthened community infrastructure, and positioned the county as a regional leader. Perhaps most important, she embodies the values of public service, investing time, knowledge, and creativity to build a better future for the residents she serves. For those reasons, we are highly honored to nominate her for this award, the Joseph Reese Award.
picture of the two of you. I gotta get pictures.
But we, just use this one. Oh, you should work. Thank you. Thank you.
Did I say I'm getting tired of retirements? Besides receiving the Reese Award right today, we're going to recognize Lisa's long career in public service. Took a little different twist, though, than, Cindy's, who's been here the entire time. When we look back on her career, she started as an assistant planner in Johnson County, Kansas, where she cut her teeth in public service. After 3 years, though, in Kansas, she got smart, decided not to be a Hawkeye or a Jayhawk, and moved to the state of Minnesota, and then goes to work for several cities here, including St. Paul, Rosemount, Roseville, and Eagan, for about a decade, 1987 to 1997. I don't have any small quips, though, about her managers at those times, so I couldn't add any fun like that into this. These roles are where she worked with the counties and MnDOT to align land use with transportation. And I certainly know in places like Eagan and Rosemount that were growing extremely fast at those times. Those were very valuable lessons that she learned. In '97, though, she leaves the world of city planning and heads to the state to become a principal planner in the Office of Strategic and Long-Range Planning. This is where she becomes exposed to different regions of the state and the impact that transportation has on those areas and communities and how important community planning is. From this point, Lisa leaves state planning to become a planning director in the access management section at the Department of Transportation. This is where she works with local governments and the DOT to improve their access management through land use planning and working on the access classification study. So you wonder why you've heard the words functional class and access and all of those things. It was very important to her. Her final stop at the DOT was as the deputy commissioner, but prior to that, she spent 6 years at the Metro District as the transportation planning director and our area manager for the South Metro. And here she was involved in some pretty important projects that drove how our transportation systems were going to function, including 169, the beginning of 212's freeway section, and some very critical interchanges on Trunk Highway 52, which are all really, really important investments for the state of Minnesota. In 2008, she began her career at Scott County as the program delivery manager. And Mitch Rasmussen's first review, though, documents her knowledge of the MnDOT, the Met Council process, and transportation engineering has made her a vital member of the Public Works Management team. Her ability to manage many different projects and people at the same time, her work ethic and her commitment to the department has allowed her to accomplish much in her short time here. That was at her first annual review. I think we would be able to say that 17 years later. She has helped implement the county system for the past 17 years. This involves work on 169. So when you look at this, the Belle Plaine Interchange, 59, 9, Bluff Drive, 14, 78, 69, the pedestrian bridges on 17, 77, and 79, because we saw the bigger picture in transportation, along with the construction of the Marshall Road Transit Station and getting that funded after our first discussion with Arlene. The work to bring the new alignment on County Highway 21 to fruition with the Eagle Creek Transit Station. And while at the DOT, she helped secure the DOT support for the South Bridge construction and some pretty creative funding there. She has worked hard to ensure that the county received their share of the National Highway System funds for roads like County Highway 42 that most of us don't even realize, and has been relentless in her advocacy with Commissioner Aldrich at the county at the Met Council TAC and TAB. She was a leader with her staff in obtaining the RAISE grant for 41, but she encouraged some out-of-the-box thinking and writing here that brought staff in who were not necessarily transportation experts to help proof and help with the review and writing of that. Again, breaking down silos and sharing knowledge. Both of these women that we've talked about so far don't work for a department, they work for Scott County, and they are the stellar examples of that. The work to move 13 to the point the corridor is nearing construction We've been at this for 20-some years. We are now 2 years away from building this. Reflects our staff's ability to work with other partners and for the good of the region, not just Scott County. We can do all the county roads we want. We have ample capacity. The roads right now that hamper our public are the trunk highways. And the belief of the board and our staff that that's where we need to invest has made it better for the public. But beyond transportation, Lisa has played a crucial role the past 4 years in the CARE and the ARPA projects. Our organization made the decision to really invest in the priorities, both of CARE and ARPA, which meant capital projects in the case of ARPA and getting funds for food, housing, technology, and business out for the CARES program. Lisa, working with others, including Chris Harder, another retiree, and the CDA, put methodology in play to get housing funds out, but also prevented fraud. I'm hitting on that as well. Commissioner Ulrich hit on it earlier. That was really critical, that we had the foresight to look at that and work with our partners. We supported the schools. They figured out how to do that. We provided CAP with the refrigerator. You forget some of these things that we did and all the effort and all the work that went into that. Meanwhile, we're still moving the highway department forward and getting 169 going, right? In the case of ARPA, she stepped up and voluntold her staff and transportation that we need to help project manage and support projects that might not be their division's priority. I don't know that the Cedar Lake Park was their priority, but we got it done, right? I don't know that the Behavioral Health Center, I think she and Adam probably know more about behavioral health than they ever cared to know. And Barb Dahl was one of the ones that recommended her for the Reese Award because of that relationship and partnership to see what was important for Scott County. Again, that is educating others on the county, building relationships with other organizations, and delivering what the county board directed us to do. Again, when I look at retirement, I look at our value statement and how they have lived that out. And again, Lisa is one that truly has. Customer service, she looks for solutions that don't violate policy, but are often different than a gut reaction, no, or we can't. How do we get there? She will quite often look for solutions that don't violate, whoops, I'm repeating myself. The how can we attitude. Lisa's continually working with other entities to deliver very difficult projects. Commissioner Ulrich hit on those, I don't have to repeat them. And she is a deep thinker. Cindy responds like this, Lisa needs a little time to think. But when she comes back, it's not one idea, it's a million ideas. You have to weed through them. She supports trying different ideas, as I mentioned above, and working towards solutions that can meet dual objectives. So she is another leader who has truly lived out our values in her day-to-day work here at the county. She has worked countless hours to make sure items were reviewed, applications were thorough, not just the generic consultant filled out application, but it was consistent with our vision, our view. Yes, city roads are important, MnDOT roads are important. How does it fit the system? And that is a rare thinking I am learning today. She truly looks at things from the county perspective and is willing to share those resources. The county's going to miss your dedication and commitment to making us a better org, and not just the county, but the overall region have benefited from your work ethic and big picture. I'm going to miss you personally, the ability again to ask a question and get a very thoughtful answer, and it didn't matter what it was, but to be able to ask that and know I was going to get an honest response as we're making decisions. So again, our loss is certainly Larry. You can go travel now, you're going to be happy, right? Brendan and Ian, she can do more of that gardening and sewing. I think she was sharing at a management team meeting, she bought a new sewing machine, but I think it sews itself. I don't even think it needs her. Enjoy all of those activities and events, as well as the arrival of your first grandchild is nearing, so that's exciting for you.
Perfect.
And we're going to miss your can-do and big picture thinking. And we're thankful for what you've done for Scott County and the region for the past 17 years. Congratulations.
Picture time.
Well, I, like Cindy, didn't prepare anything, so what you're gonna get is ad lib. That's maybe the best way. I thought about this a lot before today, and, you know, when I came here 17 and a half years ago, I wasn't sure how long I'd be here. But as I started working with people here and the work here, I found a lot of rewarding things to be done and a lot of great support, especially from the board and my colleagues here at the county. So I found this was a good place and at the right scale for me to get a lot of things done. And I certainly hope that that all of you appreciate the work that really all of these folks who are in the room for my division have helped get done. They helped support it, your vision, and bared with me as sometimes we took twists and turns on projects, and sometimes that wasn't so easy. But it's really been a good experience for me, and I have got to do a lot of good work. Back when I was being a city planner, I really disliked the not in my backyard attitude that was prevalent with projects as I was working through them. It was one of the reasons why I kind of made a switch in careers, because everybody likes to get to where you're going and they like to get there safely. And this gave me an opportunity to do work that I knew I was benefiting a lot of people. So I think I instilled the work ethic in my children, because as you'll see, my one son was here, but he had to leave because he needed to get back to his classroom. He's a teacher. And my other son was unable to come today. I feel bad, but on the other hand, I also know that I've taught them that they know where they need to be at the right place. And so I am looking forward to a little bit more vacationing in this machine than I've got for sewing machine. I heard I might need to learn a little bit about programming and design, so I'll be continuing that. I just really thank all of you for the opportunity to work here 17 and a half years, to work on great projects, to allow me in the last 3 to 4 years of my career to touch city planning again and do some of those kinds of things that are more community building. And I hope that we've left you in a better place. And I know for sure you have a great team in the transportation, the highway, and transit folks that are there in my division. They are awesome. We brought on some really good people in the last 4 to 5 years, and I know that they're going to continue to do great work for you, so I feel like I'm leaving things in a good place. Thanks, Leslie, for being supportive for all these years, and I tried really hard not to get emotional at this, so I think it's best maybe I just complete my comments now. Thanks again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Still good morning, I had to check.
Yeah, we're still morning.
It is.
Jake Grusing, Transformation Enterprise Services Director. Thank you for putting this on the show. I'm never sure why Leslie is pointing at me when I'm sitting in the audience. So I thought it was going to be this, but I wasn't totally sure.
Yeah.
So here to recognize another retiree. And before I do that, I think it's appropriate just to comment. We have Cindy and we had Lisa, and I have only benefited from working with the two of them and learned so much from each of you. I'm going to miss the opportunity to reach out to you and to learn from you, and hopefully we'll be able to stay in touch. The five of you, I think, have visibility into some of the organization, and depending on your focus area and which other boards and committees you're assigned to, you might have a little more detail and you get into the weeds. But with our most recent Reese Award recipients and really most of our retirees who have been standing up here, the five of you and the board as a body have a pretty good sense of those individuals, what they do. They're visible, they're present to the five of you. And I think you know that our organization runs on people who do the same thing, embody the same work ethic, the same dedication, the same creativity that Cindy and Lisa do within their respective departments, and they kind of fly under the radar. Not everybody wants to be a division director or a department director. They're happy where they are. And we wouldn't be able to serve our residents at all if we didn't have an organization full of folks who show up every day with that same kind of dedication, doing the work directly with the folks we're all here to serve. So here to celebrate the career and retirement of Lisa Pollard. Lisa began her career with Scott County in 1999 at the Savage Library as a part-time associate librarian. The following year, she enrolled in the Master of Library and Information Science program at St. Kate's University. In October 2002, she was hired as the library's first youth services librarian, splitting her time between library administration and the Prior Lake Library. In December of that year, she completed her master's degree. Several years later, her job was reclassified as Youth Services Coordinator, a position she held until 2018 when she was hired as the Learning and Outreach Manager, working full-time in library administration to plan and oversee adult and youth programs in the library and the community. And over the course of her career with Scott County, Lisa has worked with 5 different library directors. I don't know, I just went with worked with, Lisa has worked with. I didn't want to say you had the privilege of working with, because that seemed to assume too much.
Nice.
Or that you had to work with, because we're not that difficult, I don't think. So I just went, you worked with. You worked with 5 of us. Janet Williams, Vanessa Birdsey, me. Chris Harder, was Chris Harder?
She's on back.
She's in the back, okay. Let's not forget she was library director briefly. Me again, which I'm glad you got through that. And then Jennifer Schultz, currently. I like all those people, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot. Good job. You should have a separate recognition for that. Unfortunately, I think we heard a little bit about this morning with Cindy and Lisa Fries as well, that the words in job titles don't really tell you anything meaningful about the people who have those jobs. So I tried to think of a few words that to me describe Lisa. And after thinking on a decade plus of working with her, I came up with intelligence, intention, and integrity. You're also really funny, but that doesn't start with INT, and it didn't fit the theme. I left that out. She's other things too, but those were the three things that fit that particular theme. So I just wanted to share a couple examples. I know there are other folks in the audience who might want to come up here and speak about Lisa's impact on them. But just 3 areas where I think Lisa really had an impact on our library system. So one would just be services to all. Lisa's career tended to focus on youth, children, families, but she really understood how libraries serve everybody, all abilities, all ages. And I don't think that was ever more evident than during the pandemic. So you were actually the first Scott County staff person to talk to me about the pandemic. It was like late February 2020, and we were at Marshall Road, and you found me and said, what are we going to do about the pandemic? And I don't know. I don't really know what you're talking about. I know that there's something going on in some part of the world, but you were already, this gets to some of the intelligence and intention as well. You're already doing research, paying attention to the trends, not just in public libraries, but more broadly, and understanding that was going to have an impact on how we delivered services, and we would be better off if we started figuring out what our plan was going to be. And understood that would impact our entire community. During the pandemic, she prioritized staff well-being and customer well-being, and very quickly implemented programs that were delivered by mail, sending out packets to folks of all ages, creating some socially distanced programs in our libraries and our library meeting rooms. So innovation and thoughtfulness in serving everybody during the pandemic. Services to children, of course. When I started, the library used words like story time and bookawaki. I don't know if anybody remembers the summer reading program, which was called Bookawaki, which really doesn't tell you anything about what that program is. It might even sound kind of scary. So Lisa transitioned that. There was a library director we had who felt like pretty big deal because he had his picture in the paper about serving kids, and we were gonna get everybody ready for kindergarten. We were gonna get everybody reading by grade level, on grade level at third grade. And I got to say all that stuff and be here, and Scott Delivers, talk about it. But Lisa was the person who actually made all those programs happen. I'm gonna come back to that theme of having somebody say, we're gonna do all this great stuff, here's some money, isn't this great? But somebody actually has to be the implementer and make things happen. Shouldn't be news to anybody. That was not me. That was Lisa, right? The person who was actually making things happen for the public. In this case was Lisa. So Services to Kids, she not only rebranded story times as early literacy classes, but she really reimagined it. It wasn't just, well, let's call it something else because then the five of you will think of story time as something different. She retrained the staff on early literacy classes and really made that a priority for everybody. It wasn't something that a handful of people got to do. Everybody in the library serves youth and should be aware of that priority. The summer reading program, Bookawaki, again, not just rebranded, really reimagined, reinvented as Summer Spotlight, and the off-site summer reading program, so folks who couldn't get into the library, who were in some summer school programs, she wanted to make sure that they had those experiences as well. The Readmobile, again, super exciting, really cool to go out, get money, buy this huge vehicle, get a beautiful, colorful wrap on it, and then say, here you go, like, go do great stuff. How come you aren't doing great stuff yet? And that intention, that integrity, and that intelligence, real thoughtfulness around what is it we want to do, who is it we're going to serve, and what's the best way to get those resources out to those communities. Lisa deserves all the credit for making that happen. Services to individuals. So we had, this is I think a common thing in public libraries and increasingly common, is that we serve people of all ages with mental health issues. And there was one resident in particular, when I think about Lisa, I always think about this story because I think it does speak to who she is as a person and how she shows up for other people. As you know, we deliver library services in partnership with our cities. The cities own the buildings, we get to provide the services in them. And the city of Prior Lake had trespassed a young man who, we got the information just saying, hey, he's not allowed in that building. It's a city building. He wasn't allowed in City Hall anymore. He wasn't allowed in our building anymore. So we got the name in library administration, and Lisa right away recognized the name and had some questions about what the issue was, and he hadn't done anything in the library space. It was the city who had trespassed him from City Hall, mostly for just lingering. He wasn't, actively bothering anybody. He was just present and didn't have anywhere else to go. So Lisa pushed, I think this is fair to say, and I mean it like in a complimentary way, really pushed me to reach out to the city to press this issue. That, well, we didn't have any issues with him. It's our space that we're operating in your building, and it's a space that he feels comfortable in. He should be allowed to come in and use the library. I think the crisis he was in escalated, and he showed up in some other county spaces over the next few days and weeks and wasn't responding to folks offering help. And and Leslie may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. We had law enforcement go out to this gentleman's home, and Lisa was one of the people who went with them as a familiar face, a welcoming face, and a kind, gentle presence to be there. And I believe this person is now on our mental health advisory committee. Really turned things back around, got back on his feet. But Lisa, I will always credit you for caring deeply about people who are struggling with mental health issues and finding ways to serve them and connecting them with the supports they need. Finally, for me, just personally, I'm sure I'm a better person for having worked with Lisa. it's fun to work with smart people. It's fun to work with people with integrity and with intention. What I found, it wasn't like sand in the gears, but Lisa was not, especially when I started, I would say you were not there to just say like, awesome, you're the new director, like whatever you want to do, that sounds like a great idea. You were really thoughtful in saying, well, here are the concerns I have with what we're trying to do or what you might be proposing or where we want to go. And again, we heard that from about Cindy and Lisa Fries as well, that when Lisa spoke up, I knew it was something that I really needed to listen to and consider deeply. And when you said, like, we're good to go, we were good to go. I knew we were headed in the right direction. So certainly a better library director for working with Lisa, a better overall employee, and as I said, a better person. She deserves all the recognition that everybody else received today, and I think she will receive from her other staff. But I don't know, Leslie, if you wanted to tell a story before Ally and Blanca also wanted to speak, if that's all right with the chair.
Yeah, I did want to add, I had a couple. One was the mental health. It was such a tremendous outreach, and it was a difficult time for us, even how to handle it. And your willingness to go out there and help and support, I think it just shows your character and the true you. And Jake told the story. But the other thing was, when I became the Community Services Director in 2010, Mary Keene and I went out and held a meeting with all the librarians to talk about access to the libraries and could it look different. I wouldn't put it in my most favorite meeting I've ever gone to at Scott County. It was a difficult discussion, really difficult discussion, but I learned a lot. And what I learned was the passion that those folks, and Lisa was one of the most vocal, had for the libraries and the important role libraries play in our community. It became very clear then, when I was invited back out during the Great Recession, how people used our libraries, need that space. And what I've seen that we've evolved to today through the right discussions and through the right supports. Lisa has just become a phenomenal supporter of some of those early literacy and the role a library could play in it. And just to watch that transition and support has been tremendous. And I too want to congratulate you for all your years of service to the library and what you've done for the residents of Scott County. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allie Addison, and I've had the pleasure of working alongside Lisa for the last 10 years. I get to represent Blanca and myself, so this is going to skew a little bit more my style. Jake, Leslie, you talked a lot about her impact, and one, just professionally, how she's impacted us. She's been a leader, a mentor. She's let us try new things with the Readmobile, like parking it up on top of by his water tower because we know there's a Russian community up there. And when not to drive it on ice, we learned that as well, when not to drive it. But ultimately, I don't think you realize the impact you've had on this community. So I did some data research because we're librarians and we really appreciate having data to go forward. This is a snapshot. This is what I've had from 10 years of working with her. And this is just for Summer Spotlight. One of the biggest things she has run and led. 35,287 kids completed Summer Spotlight. That is, we've done this in different styles. Sometimes we tracked pages. It was millions. I didn't even break that down. But mostly we track books and minutes. Books for younger kids, babies through about age 5. In the last 4 years, parents have read 154,000 books to kids as a part of this program. Kids ages 6 to 18 have read over 3 million It's 3,016,761. That's including leap year, 5 years, 267 days. So that's more than half the time that I've known you and have gotten to work with you. You have inspired and encouraged 616 teens to volunteer at the library and to give back to their communities and learn the role that libraries play within their communities. And they donated over 9,000 hours. You have been a leader, an advocate for youth and for your staff, and a mentor to us all. And you will be greatly missed because you are singular in that. And you've led that ship and that passion for so long. So thank you.
I promise I'll keep this short. I know everybody's like, it's getting late. But I do want the chair and the commissioners and all of the people, the residents of Scott County, to realize that I really appreciate the opportunity to have made my living on their backs, on their taxes that they pay. I hope that over 26 years it was worth it. I really enjoyed having the opportunities I did have. If you're a music lover, part of our programming was music, and we had performers like the Cactus Blossoms and the Okie Dokie Brothers, who won a Grammy, and Chastity Brown. Those people all appeared in the libraries at no cost to the public to come in and see them. So those are some things I'm proud of, along with, like Jake had referenced, our mail-out program during COVID, trying to make sure people were staying connected with their community and yet safe, especially, older folks. But thank you again for the opportunity. I work with the best people in the world, so sorry the rest of you. But, it's just been a great team, and many of the things that Jake talked about were, I certainly wasn't the only person running those things or driving those things, so I really owe a lot to the team. Thank you, Chair Beer, for your comments at the beginning of this meeting. I think that embracing that team of rivals concept where we're talking with each other and not being siloed, I think that's a really important thing for this country and this county going forward. So thank you for those comments. Thank you.
We are in a recess now, I guess. There's some treats down the hallway for folks that have been here, so please go enjoy yourself.
Agenda item. We are going to reconvene the Scott County Board of Commissioners September 16th meeting. We had recess for several different reasons, for retirement recognitions, to walk across the street to Legacy Central ribbon cutting and lunch, of which you are a liaison on that board. Beautiful building, beautiful office. Makes the other one look like the armpit it was. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have an amended agenda, so we have 15 items.
You're ahead of one, aren't you?
No. We gotta do consent.
We're not doing 7.
Yeah, we might need,
Oh,
we just need to
yeah.
know how to address that do I need to amend it? Okay, yeah, we're moving over, we're gonna move 7.1 to a future meeting on the Scott County Delivers topic, active lifestyles in parks based on timing. So we are gonna move to item 8, consent agenda. I will read these, it will pass with one motion. 8.1, adopt resolution number 2025-191, approving the preliminary 2026 levy of $40,532 and budget for the Scott County Vermilion River Watershed Special Taxing District. 8.2, adopt resolution number 2025-208, approving a rezone of 69.84 acres from TR, Transition Reserve, to TRC, Transition Reserve Cluster, and preliminary plat and final plat of Stocker Acres, Jason A. and Holly Stocker applicant, and Richard A. and Ann M. Stocker property owners. 8.3, adopt resolution number 2025-213, rescinding resolutions number 2003-034, 2009-048, and 2024-251, and appointing Rhonda Otto as the county auditor treasurer. 8.4, adopt resolution number 2025-215, approving the 2026 final levy of $40,000 for the Cedar Lake Improvement District. 8.5, adopt resolution number 2025-216, supporting transportation economic development grant applications by the city of Sauvaget for the Highway 13 Mobility Improvement Project. 8.6, adopt resolution number 2025-217, approving the final 2026 levy assessment of $1,650 on all taxable properties in the McMahon Lake Outlet Special Tax District. 8.7, adopt resolution number 2025-219, authorizing entering into attachment number 2 to the master agreement with the CAP Agency for Services at Hope's Portage and amending the 2025 budget. 8.8, adopt resolution number 2025-220, authorizing entering into attachment number 3 to the master agreement with the CAP Agency for an emergency rental assistance program and amending the 2025 budget. 8.9, adopt resolution number 2025-221, authorizing entering into a drug treatment court cooperative agreement with the state of Minnesota. 8.10, adopt resolution number 2025-224, approving a 2026 budget of $19,940. Oh, whoa, 19, whoa, yeah, we gotta change that. $19,940,704 and payable tax levy of $5,514,428 for the Scott County Community Development Agency and certifying the same to the county auditor. We got that, right? We got those numbers? Okay. 8.11, adopt resolution number 2025-226, authorizing execution of a purchase agreement and sale of property at 20140 Delaware Avenue. 8.12, approve payroll processing of personnel actions. 8.13, approve record of disbursements and approve claims. And then the two that were noted, early on the amended agenda, 8.14 is approve appointment of a citizen to advisory committee. And 8.15, approve modification to the 2025 board meeting schedule. So those are the 15 newly amended or only amended items on the consent agenda. Members, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, motion and second to approve consent agenda with the 15 items. Is there any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that passes. I should also mention, after coming back from recess, Commissioner Barb Weckman-Brecky had to catch a flight to DC to represent all of the good work that we need for not only our county, but the state in DC, so wish her well. Moving to 9.1, looking to adopt resolution number 2025-214, approving the 2026 preliminary levy of, where's he at? Okay, no, not yet. $1,530,000 for the Scott Watershed Management Organization's Special Taxing District. Good afternoon.
My name is Vanessa Strong. I'm your Water Resources Supervisor here at Scott County. I will attempt to be efficient and as quick as I can and still get my job done here.
Yep, sure, take your time.
Just hit the space bar. There it is. There he goes. Okay. So this year, we will be covering just 3 quick things. The agenda for this afternoon is the budget policy and preliminary levy, our key factors which influence the WMO's budget each year, and then the impact on our residents. So board budget policy and preliminary levy is based on consistent board policy and direction, provide long-term fiscal stability while minimizing tax impact, manage limited resources over unlimited demands, and provide that level of service necessary to meet our mandates and our citizens' expectations. So these are the necessary items for the WMO to meet its requirements for 2026. And then just, of course, a reminder that the Scott WMO's Watershed Management Plan does approve an annual 5.5% increase through 2026. The other piece, of course, is to maintain fiscal stability. Maintaining a structurally balanced budget, the ebb and flow of our programs, maintain the SWMO reserves, that's our fund balance, plan to prepare for the future, and do not spike the levy. Preliminary levies for special taxing districts must be certified by September 30th. In December, we will request board action to approve the WMO's 2026 final levy and budget to be consistent in timing with the county's budget approval process. So the preliminary levy for 2026 being brought to you today is $1,530,000 with a draft budget of $1,635,300. The preliminary 2026 levy is an increase of $30,000. That's over the 2025 levy, which was at $1,500,000. The preliminary levy increase this year is 2%, and that is actually lower than last year's percentage increase set of 5.8%, 5.86%. Key factors influencing the 2026 budget. Revenue is anticipated to be significantly less than in past years. This is a very unique situation, which I haven't seen in the last 10 years. We just happen to not have any new grant reimbursements coming in. Since most of our grants are reimbursement based, you do the work, you get the money later. We just don't have any of that projected to come in for 2026. So we don't have final grant information because some of that information doesn't come from our granting authorities until very close to the end of the year. But once we do, we will work that into the budget and bring that to you during final budget review. If we did happen to obtain some projected grant revenue for 2026, it could either help reduce the amount of fund balance needed or increase available cost share funds. So our priority programs for the WMO for 2026, again, each year we have certain priority programs and then we just lean back on a few others. For 2026, planning is our key program that continues to be that main priority for 2025, 2026. The current watershed management plan does expire at the end of 2026, so the goal is to have this new plan approved on time. A completion of that on time is critical because the county's comp plan is contingent on the WMO's plan, so we want to get our piece done to keep the county's comp plan process moving forward. Staff have completed the community input and outreach phases, so we've done a lot of great hard work on that, and we are moving into the more robust technical phases. So there is a proposed $15,000 increase to the planning program to complete that watershed management plan. Monitoring, there is a proposed $16,000 increase to complete the synoptic monitoring analysis for Sand Creek and Turion survey for Cedar Lake as identified in the current watershed management plan. As you may recall, we collected some of that core data over the past 2 years, but now of course we have to analyze it and determine what it's going to tell us. So while those are primary focus programs, we are actually pulling back on some programs primarily to balance the budget and workload. Some of our scaled back programs for 2026 are the land and water treatment program. That one's proposed to decrease by $544,000. Partially that's just because we simply don't have any capital improvement projects, and then also to help balance the budget. It's still, however, the capital improvement program still accounts for the majority of the difference between 2025 and 2026, and the draft budget still remains about 66% land and water treatment. So overall, land and water treatment is still our largest contributing program to the WMO. Additional program areas expected to be scaled back for 2026 include our inventory and data analysis. That one's going down $110,000, education $44,000. And then some other programs, our maintenance, coordination, and regulation programs are proposed to remain flat for 2026. And then there is a $4,600 increase proposed to administration to help cover some of the increased costs for our share of facilities and staff benefits. Administration, however, does remain $26,000 below the approved watershed management program budget. Use of fund balance, the last key piece, it's anticipated there may be a maximum deficit of $67,811 in 2026. Using fund balance is generally necessary to meet our grant obligations, in this case for our reimbursement-based, watershed-based implementation funding grants and 9 element grants, a state grant and a federal grant. So how does this affect our residents? That's really at the end of the day where it all shakes out. In 2026, the average taxpayer will see a decrease in the annual amount due. They'll go from about $42.12 down to $41.85. This is a proposed average tax decrease of 27 cents compared to the 2025 average tax increase of $1.88. Tax rate graph. So tax rate is a decrease of 0.934% down to 0.892%. It's a difference of 0.042%. The WMO tax rate, as you can see, has continued to decrease over the past years, and we do remain below our general trend of 1%. So with that, staff does recommend the board Staff recommends the board adopt resolution number 2025-214, which is approving the 2026 preliminary levy of $1,530,000 for the Scott Watershed Management Organization Special Taxing District. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Did that crappie get released, or was it in the front?
That one definitely, too little.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Either way, it's 6 minutes too late. All right, thank you so much for that presentation. Members, any questions? Otherwise, there is a.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-214.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I would say I always hear good things with WMO, working with landowners and trying to get things done. And I ask those questions when we have those different meetings. And not that I don't believe it, because I do believe. So thank you for that good work. Just always nice to hear it from the people we're working with. Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that preliminary levy has passed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
now we're going to move to item 9.2, looking at adopt resolution number 2025-223, establishing a maximum proposed levy of $106,358,183, less $8,240,505 certified property tax aids for a net levy of $98,117,678 for the purpose of preparing the 2026 proposed property tax statements. Danny Lenz, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We are here to adopt the preliminary levy for the 2026 budget. Just a reminder to note that this is setting the maximum levy we can have for the year. It can only go down from here before we get to the final budget and levy adoption in December. So for our agenda, we're going to talk about the budget calendar a little bit. 2026 budget status, how we got to where we are today with the budget, our financial forecast, the budget reductions that are included in this proposal, the proposed levy assumptions and some risks associated with that, and then some data on the impacts on residents. So this is a preliminary levy adoption, and then as you can see, there are many more opportunities for further discussion and action on the budget that we have in the coming months. Next week, we're gonna have our CIP and the introduction of the budget book, which is really introducing these budget workshops we're gonna have with the different objective area teams throughout the county. We have the board planning workshop in November, and then we have the budget public meeting, and then final levy, CIP, and budget adoption in the December 16th board meeting. So a lot of work yet to be done. This proposed levy or this preliminary levy assumes that there's a lot of work left to be done in order to get to what that final budget and that final levy number is. So the budget status. So first we start with our board policy. Long-term fiscal stability while minimizing tax impacts, reasonable level and constant tax burden focused on modeling limited and relatively level increases and managing limited resources over unlimited demands. And how we get to fiscal stability is a structurally balanced budget, which does include the needs of employees and residents, state mandates within there, and then what that tax levy amount is that residents can bear. Maintaining the county's reserve fund balance, maintaining the county's bond rating, which is AAA, Plan and Prepare for the Future, and Don't Spike the Levy, No Surprises. That one we have failed at this year, largely because the state and federal government took some actions that really caused us to have to go through some gymnastics this past few months. So we do expect our revenue to increase by 1.92%, but this is almost entirely due to staff shifting costs and developing their own revenues through local affordable housing aid and CCBHC certification and the revenue associated with that. The largest impacts from state and federal government legislation were delayed into out years, but still there's a substantial impact expected in 2026. $864,000 in increases from the state from paid family leave, competency attainment, does not meet criteria, behavioral health fund shifts, and interstate compact offender tracking shifts, and $510,000 in cost shifts from the federal government from the SNAP work requirements and SNAP administrative cuts. And then we have contractual increases of $883,998 for a levy increase of 9.97% for this preliminary levy. So just to kind of show what we're looking at from the state level. So this is the preliminary fiscal estimate of the loss of federal funding for state-administered, county-delivered programs here. So you see that little bit over $1 billion in the 28-29, and you see that graph all the way over to the right shows how much of that has to be picked up by providers, counties, and beneficiaries in that cost shift. And a big portion of that is counties under current state statute have to pick up those costs from that federal shift. So we had actions from the state government that shifted costs to us this last year, and then the federal government with the current state statutes we have in place that causes an additional shift of those costs down to the county. So the key budget drivers. We have salary increases based on the board's direction, 6% increase for health insurance. We have set aside $1.7 million in levy contingency, and that is really because we don't know what the final impact is going to be of state and federal changes. There are requirements for programs that have not come through yet that we need to still implement. There is still a federal budget that has to be approved by the end of this month for the next fiscal year. We don't know what else is coming down, so we have built into this budget an ability to be flexible and respond to potential future changes. The $883,000, $884,000 in contractual increases, about $500,000 in the impact from paid family leave, $375,000 from SNAP work requirement staffing. Again, this is one of those areas we do not know what this is going to look like. We are trying to build in some flexibility to be able to respond to when those requirements come through. $175,000 from the ACT implementation, $150,000 from the does not meet criteria shift, $135,000 from SNAP administrative cuts, $35,000 from ICOTS funding shift, and then we built in some assumptions. So we have been seeking to be a MnChoice standalone county, which would increase our reimbursement for MnChoices. And so we expect $400,000 in revenue from that shift. We expect to have an increase in the number of people utilizing the JAF and expect about $350,000 in revenue from that. We reduced our CIP funding that has been in the forecast for some time by $200,000. And then we're going to be removing, the county has long practice where we have covered the credit card fees when people come into county offices to make a transaction. That practice has gone away largely when you see other communities and how businesses operate. That's a $100 shift to us. And in the last 5 years, that's gone from about $40,000 a year to over $100,000 a year in cost to the county for covering those credit card fees. As we look ahead over the next 5 years, from 2027 to 2030 in our financial forecast, we have 1% revenue increases in there. For a long time, the state was having 3-4% levy or increases in their funding to us. The last several years, we have seen that come way down. We don't expect a major change in that in the future. We expect our revenues not to increase substantially when so many things are covered by state funding. We do have our estimated salary increases within there, 5% health insurance increase, a $200,000 increase transfer to fund balance, and $1 million for contractual increases, which is consistent with what we've been seeing. So, as we look at this, for 2027, a lot is going on. We have $2.6 million in identified and assumed budget reductions that are going to be in place for 2027. 1.6 million of that is budget reductions that we have identified now that we are going to put the money aside to help us for this 2027 year. These reductions are going to go into place, but we're going to use it to reduce the levy in 2027 or else we'd have a substantial spike. We have $1.5 million in increase for the act when that goes live for 2027. The contractual increase is $350,000 in SNAP cost shifts. This is where now we, for the first time, are going to be paying out the actual benefits amount for a federal program. This is a major change for how the county has long administered these programs, but now we're going to be paying out the benefits. $270,000 for SNAP administrative cost shifts, $250,000 for Medicaid work requirements, $200,000 increase to fund balance. As we have additional costs coming on, our fund balance has to keep up in order to maintain operations. $162,000 for MnChoice's flat reimbursement impact, $100,000 increase to the CIP, and about $75,000 to bring library extended access onto the budget.
And Danny, these are fairly liberal versus our traditional conservative, right? So just so they understand, we've been warned it could be higher. We're trying to bring these down in a balance if hopefully we're successful at the legislature.
That is accurate, and I have a slide that goes through some of the changed assumptions that we went through. Hearing feedback from the board and looking at what our peer counties had done, we took a little bit different tack to try and bring the levy into something that we thought was doable, but it does require some work with the legislature and to get some things changed in order to make this a feasible forecast. So this is not our conservative tendency. This is our more liberal side of assuming that there's going to be some good news for us as opposed to the bad news we normally assume. In 2028, we have $2 million in debt service that's rolling off that we're going to be shifting over into the CIP in order to fund future building improvements like major renovations costs as we look across the street to our LEC that's starting to be a 20-plus-year-old building. You're going to need some bigger cost coverage there. We have $1 million in SNAP cost shifts from the federal government, $100,000 contractual increase, and $200,000 increase to fund balance. Then we get into 2029, and we have a $450,000 corrections fee loss that's still in state statute, along with those contractual increases. So a lot that we're trying to model and project, and not really knowing where we're going to land in this. So this is a different budget year for us. We have a lot of legislative impacts, but I don't think we've had one with this many impacts going in this many different directions. So based on a 9.9% levy, this is what we expect our forecast to be over the next 5 years. So a spike up, and if our assumptions hold true, and the budget reductions are put into place, we expect to be down about 6.7% for next year, and in that 6% range, 7% range over the next 3 years. As I talked about that state levy that's no longer keeping up from where we used to be, this feels like it's going to be our new normal, being in this 6 to 7% range, which is historically high for where the county has been between 3.5% and 4%, because those revenues are just not keeping up with the cost increases of salaries, health insurance, and just program expenses as well. And this just shows our operating budget. And really this goal is to show us what our fund balance health is. So if you take the red line, divide it by the yellow line, it gives you that blue line on top. That shows you the percentage of our fund balance that we have in the bank at the end of a fiscal year. So if you look at 2026, we expect to have just under 32% of our full operating budget sitting in fund balance by the end of this year. When you take out 25% of that, it shows us our lowest minimum operating fund balance within the 5-year forecast that we can continue to have operations. So this is that balance of we levy for property taxes, but we don't receive those taxes till the end of May, and we have to live off of our fund balance. So when we get to the end of May, we estimate that our fund balance is going to be down at that green line before we start getting those property tax funding back in there. So we always want this number to be above 5% within this 5-year forecast. I mean, some of the actions we're taking with this budget are helping us to achieve that. So I said we have budget reductions, about $2.6 million baked in here for 2026. So we have $1.6 million in identified reductions and reductions anticipated throughout 2026 of an additional $1 million. Total ongoing reductions that we are building in for the 2027 forecast is $2.637 million. The proposal that we have here reduces or holds 20 positions across the organization for 2026. And the positions held through 2026 equate to $1.3 million in money that will help shore up our fund balance because of these increased costs. We are going to be short in our fund balance in the out years. As we go through these, the positions listed below as holding are not permanent cuts. Those are those ones that are only being held through 2026 and when we can reevaluate, but a lot of them We think we can hold for a year, but not longer than that on those positions. And the positions listed as reduced are proposed as permanent cuts within this budget. So for the county attorney's office, there's $80,911 in reductions. This includes holding a senior legal assistant and then diversion program, raising diversion fees. $30,000 in the sheriff's office for elimination of a code red contract. Community services of $262,000, eliminating some summer help and then holding a position for the division director. Office of Management and Budget, $376,000 for IT training budget items, then holding 2 positions within IT. And then Planning and Resource Management, $101,000, holding a vacant equipment mechanic position. Transformation and Enterprise Services, a little bit over $600,000. That includes eliminating 3 positions from our library, 2 from the learning and outreach area. Eliminating our greater MSP membership, reducing our access contract. This is where we're gonna bring our land records books back on site for storage as opposed to paying for them to be stored off-site. And then holding a vacant business relationship manager position. Transportation services at $600,000 as well. $169,000 in reduced maintenance line items. $140,000 for a vacant planner position. A .4 admin assistant position, and then holding 2 positions, public works technician and a GIS analyst. And then in Health and Human Services, we have over $900,000 in reductions. So we're eliminating the Shakopee attendance specialist funding, elimination of treatment court, shifting day support services funding from levy, shifting chemical dependency position to CCBHC funding, shifting a reentry position to opioid funding, reducing a vacant child support officer position, reducing a vacant community health specialist, and holding a vacant licensed social worker 2 position. They're also holding 4 additional positions, 3 in child protection and 1 adult mental health caseworker, in order to use those positions to fund the costs of the act. That is a state requirement that's gonna be implemented for 2027. So if things go well, we don't have to use these positions, but for right now, we're planning on holding them, and the current plan is we'd have to fill those for 2027. So talking about some of these risks that the county administrator was referring to. So when we brought forward the budget, we had a much higher number that we showed you, and we're asked to go back and sharpen our pencils and do some more work on these assumptions. So the assumptions that we have built in here is getting that $400,000 for the MnChoice's standalone reimbursement. We don't know that that's what that funding is gonna be. $350,000 for the JAF census increase. Again, we have to show up and have those additional people within the JAF in order to bring that revenue in. The reduced CIP funding increase, that's one where we believe we can do some shifting of funds in order to cover that without a problem. And the credit card fees are one that, again, it's gonna reduce the cost. That's about $100,000. We reduced our reduction in SNAP work requirements by $625,000 from what our original recommendation was. We have about 1.89 set aside levy contingency in there. And for 2027, we reduced our Medicaid work requirements assumption by $2.55 million. Again, the CIP funding increase, which we believe can cover from shifts. We reduced our SNAP payment shift estimate to $235,000. And we reduced the SNAP payment shift in 2028 by $705,000. These are some pretty big assumption changes, and that's when we talk about risk within this model, requires some really good things to happen with the legislature, the state picking up these costs for us to make this a reality. So this is our original proposed levy slide. If those things that we took out of our original assumptions, all of those end up impacting the way we had originally assumed it would, this is what our levy will look like next year. We'll be at 9.97% for 2026, and we'll be up at 11.13% in 2027 before we come back down to 7.07%. So when we talk about risk, that's what the risk is. It's gonna be 2 very high years in order to fund the things the way we're looking at them. So this is our net levy versus new construction inflation combined. This has been a touch point that we have had within the budget for quite a few years. We have been lower than that, but we've been fairly consistent in trying to be, if you see that kind of 4%, 3.5% to 4% there for a while. But we've been trending up. As we have an increase when we've seen the really large CPI increases, that is part of these contractual increases being higher and higher. Those inflationary costs are catching up to us. But this year, obviously, because of the state and federal shifts, we are much higher than that CPI and new construction percentage change. And this shows the distribution of how much residential properties with property taxes increases are going to see. So the largest portion is over 15,000. We'll see between a $50 to $100 shift. 11,800 between $10 to $50. 10,000 seeing $100 to $150 in their annual property tax payment increase. So this is a bigger shift for us with a lot more people to the left of this center line than we typically have seen in the past. And this just shows what the average value home in Scott County has happened in their taxes over the last 10 years. So the home value, the column on the left, is the average property taxes, or the average value home. So the $263,000 one was the average value home in 2017. The $332,000 home value was the average home value in 2021. The $450,000 home was the average value home for 2025 taxes paid. And the $469,000 home is the average value home in Scott County for the 2026 taxes paid year. So if you look at that 2025 taxes for the $450,000 home, so this one, and that home stayed an average value home with the value increase, they'd be paying the $1,332. That average value home has seen about $116.30 increase in their taxes from Scott County for this year.
Just a comment, if I could, on that slide. The only thing is that the home at 263, by the time you get to 2025, it's probably that same home is probably, well, might be 450, you know?
Yep.
So
that's what we're trying to show there with, if you step it across. So in 2017, they probably paid $952, just assuming this home stayed the average value home. Then they're up at $1,088, and then they're at $1,216, and then they're at $1,332.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So with that, staff recommends adopting resolution number 2025-223, establishing a maximum proposed levy of $106,358,183, less $8,240,505 certified property tax aid for a net levy of $98,117,678 for the purpose of preparing the 2026 proposed property tax statement. And I would stand for any questions, commissioners.
Well, is this the time where we should invite our AFSCME friends into the room? You're invited into the room. Plus we have seats. Okay, so that is the presentation. And this is not the first time we've seen the presentation. I mean, I know this is maybe the first time the public has seen it, but we've been trying to arm wrestle this thing and all kinds of things, and hope and pray, and what's the state gonna do, what's the Fed's gonna do, and what's the right contingency, what's the wrong contingency, playing all that game. So with that, what do we have for questions for Danny? Otherwise, I've got a few questions.
I would just say, Mr. Chair, like to echo what you said, we've been seeing this since the first or second quarter of the year. So this isn't a surprise, and we've seen it on the news. And I was on a call yesterday with NACO, and yeah, the shift is rolling downhill, so to speak. So
it is. One thing we always talk about a lot of times in workshops is, or just conversational, like, what are things that we can do, that are mandated, that we can stop doing, that doesn't hurt somebody, which I know that's a big if, and get other counties on board to try to push and create some level of resistance with the state, so that they feel the decisions that they make and how that impacts people down here in the field. So I know it's kind of a open.
Is that rhetorical, or do you?
Well, the other part of that, because I know we've talked about that a lot, is you almost feel like you got both arms tied behind your back. But what about, I feel like with the community corrections, that's a mandate. Is that the one that has a mandate where there's a formula that the state is not fulfilling their mandated formula?
They updated the formula a couple of years ago.
They updated for community corrections.
It's not based on the recommendation from a working group on that, but I do not believe they're out of step with what the state statute is currently.
Well, the question really is, are there areas that are mandated and there are funding formulas attached that the state is not honoring? Because we always talk about, like, I'm not worried so much about the state suing us if we didn't do something. I don't want somebody to get hurt or worse, or get sued by outside counsel. But if there's an area that's mandated with a formula that the state is not honoring, well, then can we flip the script and then counties get on board and sue the state? Like, this is the law that you make us follow in these areas without giving us the proper funding, which is just a hidden Minnesota income tax. Are there areas that we can, hopefully find other counties to come alongside us to give us a little more power to do that? Because this is what drives me nuts, and we've had this discussion. I'm on the Labor Management Board. We've got some of the labor folks in here. I think we're all fighting for the same thing, just looking at it a little bit differently. Because if we just keep, in my words, my opinion, rolling over on the state, the whiny counties come to the state and we abdicate and we want to educate and we want to do all those things so that we can get the money that those laws make us do, then it alleviates all kinds of possibilities for us at the local level. So that's the rub.
So, Mr. Chairman, and maybe I'll have Barb come up, I do believe there are a couple areas that we are not receiving what the state says we should receive at 50%. I think the standalone county right is one of them, and that's been an argument for 5 years, and we're not receiving, even under, when we're in the shared pool, the amount we should. I think things like children's mental health, which is a mandate with a system, but part of it is, I think the pressure you're beginning to apply is they don't have to use the systems our staff do, which make us so inefficient, correct? Which then leads to needing more and more to try to meet some of these thresholds. And that's what's become so difficult. So I think, that I've heard at administrator meetings like, Hennepin is not going to add additional staff to try to meet that threshold, right? I mean, they just can't do it until they change some of the systems and the antiquated way we enter information and data. But Barb could speak to a couple of them where they're probably not meeting the requirement.
Yeah, Commissioner Beer, Commissioners, actually Leslie did a really good job of
saying
what, I think it's right. Like the min choices right now, I would say that we're not being paid as we are statutorily required. I think we have an opportunity in 2026. We have confirmation that we will receive or will be allowed to be a standalone county in 2026. I think we're hopeful that that change will be there. I think the system modernization presentation that we had at AMC, I think our state can just do better when it comes to our state systems and how to improve that and add efficiencies. I think there's so much out there that could be done that as we think about trying to tackle some of these additional costs out there with work requirements, with trying to do administrative touch points with medical assistants twice a year, like the more we have automation that can do that, that brings down county costs to help support that work. So I think there's an ongoing dialogue and conversation that can absolutely happen, and I think we can improve. It's just, we just can't do it quickly enough,
Right.
I think, for any of us.
Well, and I do feel like, we've talked about that $400,000 for that standalone, like, we keep waiting for that call and you call and we keep waiting for that email and the email. I think we made some impacts last session that we need to build on, like with Micah's, talking about defense, like, well, maybe we need to ratchet that up and a little offense. And I understand we're related, right? County, state, I get it. Like, we all get that.
We did get the response, and it wasn't good news. They're going to try to move us forward in '26, but in '25, it is an issue for us, right?
Yeah. And so that was the one that kept on getting bump.
Correct. And so I think that's problematic, that they can't creatively find a way to match the 50% that they should be matching.
Right.
That is one, I think. I think children's mental health is another classic example where you have a $1.2 million program and the state contributes $37,000 to it, but yet they mandate the system. We can't use Vireo. They mandate what our caseloads are and things like that. And so those are the types of things that if we continue to talk about, and your point is right, if they want that program, and if we are the administrative, the delivery arm of it, doing that work, then they need to look at where they're taxing to be able to do it. But right now, the feds didn't cut anything, they shifted. And because of our state statutes, it shifts it down to the county. I mean, we're one of 3 counties now where we pick up the 50% federal match, or one of 3 states, I'm sorry. So, I mean, that is problematic from a county standpoint then to try to match that. And so that is a statutory decision. The state could say something about that relationship and figure out how to deal with it.
Well, and again, we have an empty seat here. That's where Commissioner Barb Weckman-Brecky is on an airplane probably now heading that way to try to get some of those things done. And so that's where I want to be careful. Like, I do feel like we've been really creative. Because what was the original 12 point something, rather was the prelim ask? We got it down below 10. So my angst or I don't know what it is, frustration, it's not even frustration. It's just like, enough is enough. None of this stuff is sustainable for people. We got, the ASMEs wants their rate, and I always want our folks, whether it's my company, the county, to do good work and to be paid for it. This just handcuffs, in my opinion, both of our arms behind our back to be able to do those types of things with our local folks. So again, looking you in the eye, it's like I feel like we're wanting the same thing, we're just looking at it and going about it a little bit differently, which so my angst is with the state, and that's why I keep saying to, at AMC or whatever, like, hey, who wants to kick this thing? Like, what if we make a run at this? Because if we just keep passing this stuff, it just feels, and again, me speaking for myself, it just feels like we're just, the state, oh, yeah, you guys were a burner saddle, but you figured it out, and nothing really changes, and then the next group is in here.
And I think we've tried to do it, right? Some counties are actually laying off positions. At this point, we're not planning on laying off any positions. We are going to hold some vacancies, and it's at all levels in the organization and all divisions and departments within the organization. So it's kind of a shared pain right now. And hopefully we are successful at the legislature next spring to change some of these things. I mean, I would even argue the ACT, that if you look at our data and how we're operating on a prevention and the investments we're making, those things have been positive for our community. In fact, more positive than the counties who are the test cases, I believe, for the ACT. I think our leadership and Suzanne and Nikki and those staff, they know what families need and how best to work with them. And it shouldn't be mandated the how. We should be working towards outcomes. Don't tell them how, but what are the outcomes we need to achieve?
And I believe we double down on that hope and transformation, right? And that's where it's like, man, those are the things that aren't mandated, and I hope we don't get squeezed to the point where the good stuff, not that we're not doing other good stuff, but isn't on the chopping block. So that's where my angst is with the state.
Well, and I still think, Mr. Chair, there maybe are some things we should look at shifting with the state. Could we be more efficient in overhead and bureaucracy by the state does different services and the county does different services? There's very few businesses that haven't changed some since like 1950 or 60 when some of these systems were set up, right? And so to look differently today on how we operate and what that relationship looks like, I think that's a realistic discussion as well.
I just have a question on our process. You mentioned that, we've gone through a lot of this before several times, and we've worked on it, and it was 11 something at one of the last.
I think it was, yeah.
So, okay, we're now at this meeting, which is the maximum levy it can be. And normally, at this time of year, we probably had 4, 5, 6 workshops. We didn't have all those this year. But we've reached this point where we're at the maximum levy. I'm wondering, what are we doing at these all-day workshops coming up? I mean, normally we'd have those all-day workshops to get where we are today. Where are we at today? What are we going to do all day in the future? I have no idea.
So, Mr. Chairman,
I would count on the staff to make tight recommendations to us if we can get below the maximum levy. That's the work of staff with a very sharp pencil. It's not a big group discussion and going through all-day workshops. But you can tell me now. Go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ulrich, one, they're not all day. Some of them are 2-hour workshops, right? They're after a board meeting. But that is your chance, because I have heard from several commissioners, when do we get the chance to talk about, do we have a library that isn't open as many hours based on data? Do we have a discussion on extension? Do we have a discussion on some of these projects and the ability to talk to folks and understand the impacts? So that is your chance to talk to the managers and directors and ask some of those very specific questions that we have heard people bring up. Now, next Tuesday, I'm going to present some data and the trends and the changes in Scott County. That's what my presentation is on for you to take a look at. And what does that mean for some of our programs moving forward? And what do some of those outcomes look like?
The only thing I would add, if I may, is that also in your question of what are the things we can push back on, what are the things we can do differently, that is also where those discussions can happen, right? Part of that shift was because of the response to the state and being able to put together a preliminary levy. But those discussions that you just talked about wanting to have, that is where those can happen with the staff who know how those programs operate and know what the impact on the residents is going to be from any change from those things.
And you'll see the specific federal mandates, state statutes, and then the share of the federal, the state, and the levy and those dollars and what that looks like.
Well, and then also wasn't a part of that to maybe just have some time that maybe some things would shake and break loose?
Right,
maybe,
we have
hopefully.
better state data now than we would have ever had in August of this year. We just,
Between now and next week?
we didn't have it.
Well, when they start, I mean, probably not next week. Well, I don't know, Barb's in DC maybe, but we'll know by tomorrow.
But no, but we have gotten through the month of August and September, we have gotten better data, right? We're still waiting on the federal government to take an action on October. They have to have their budget by October 1st. We have TANF, we have the Social Services Block Grant. Where's Barb? I mean, those are a couple of the big ones that we are waiting on that we won't know till October 1st.
No, it is a good, I do enjoy the back and forth and being able to talk through things but yeah, I mean, and that's even ebbed and flow over the last 3 or 4 years, how it's kind of, as we learn. And that's why I say I'm bullish. Like, I believe that this county can be that county on a hill, that beacon on a hill that people look to because we're doing things differently. So I believe that. I know it just looks a little different on how we maybe agree on how we get there. Bullish.
We are.
Any other questions?
I'll make
Otherwise,
a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-223.
Second.
we have a motion. We have a second on item 9.2. Any further discussion?
I just hope that we have a good opportunity to get out in the community and talk about things that are, I know that we have an open forum, but how do we get the message out that this is, we are working hard, these are things that are happening, not because of our choosing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we did the press releases to jump on that, but, most folks are busy living lives that they don't.
Yeah, they are.
In other counties, that did come up, and maybe it came up in yours as well, in the AMC, different communities. Like, how do we have this common language? How are we talking the same thing? Because it's affecting all of us,
Right.
different levels, so. Okay, motion, second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to point out, again, this is the maximum levy, and I was talking to a county commissioner from a different county in the metro here, and I said, what's going to be your max, and where do you think you'll end up? And they said, well, our max is, we never go down from our max. Well, we almost always have gone down some from our max, so this is the max, and the staff is going to look hard at it, and we'll get more information and see where we're at.
Okay, motion, second. Last call for any discussion. Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, passes. Item number 10, are we gonna do committee reports and commissioner updates? We have time for that, right?
Let's do it.
Commissioner
Mr.
Wolf.
Chair, on the 8th Planning and Zoning, they had a, one little bit controversial thing. It was the one I mentioned, I don't know, 2 weeks, 4 weeks ago
yeah.
about somebody put their shed into the easement, and that all got passed, and, but still is a little bit unhappy on the other side. On the 9th, Three Rivers Park, we went up there and, what's the name of the park again now?
Oh, Mississippi Gateway.
Mississippi Gateway, yeah. Really nice up there, so if anyone gets a chance, go take a look. Then Prior Lake that night and Credit River meetings. On the 10th, 11th, and 12th was up at Arrowwood Resort for a AMC meeting. Thought it went pretty well there. They wanted to focus on a few things and just focus on that and get that done, which was updating computer and software stuff, because I was shocked to find out that they're still using terminal type of technology where there's one computer and there, it's like a yellow numbers or letters
Oh,
or
yellow,
green.
that's high tech, not the green.
I remember I had that back in the
Yeah.
90s when I was working at a place, and I thought that was gone. Oh, good God, I saw it, and I'm like, I can't believe, but. And then yesterday afternoon, on NACO Zoom meeting, as I said before, it's rolling downhill, and the federal stuff is gonna come hit us, and they're not gonna give us much relief on mandates, if any. That's my report, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brennan.
September 5th, I had my monthly meeting with Leslie Vermillion. September 8th was a transportation meeting with Lisa Fries. And who else was there? I can't remember right now. My mind is.
I was there.
Yep, John was there. September 8th was a meeting with Adam Jessen and Brad Davis. September 9th was Three Rivers Park District joint meeting. September 10th was a tour of the Pope Douglas Waste Management Facility, which was very similar to other organizations that we've toured, but it was a 7-county group that's working together for waste management. September 10th through September 12th was the AMC conference, and I was on the Natural Resources Committee, and I think the priorities that came out of our committee was solid waste and drainage, water drainage. September 12th, I went to the City of Shakopee TAP 2025 event. September 15th was the WPC WMO tour, Frog Fall Conservation Tour. We toured Lake O'Dowd.
Oh, yeah.
We saw some properties on Lake O'Dowd that are doing restoration, shoreline restoration and prairie. We also celebrated 4 conservation leaders in Scott County. Oldenburg and Brackbeck families were recognized for the work that they're doing on no-till. Christian Morkberg for his prairie conservation and restoration area and rain gardening. Brandon and Jenny Witt for their work on projects to reduce soil runoff entering into Sand Creek. And the City of Shakopee was recognized for their work for prairie restoration.
Nice.
Let's see, the September 16th, I had a meeting this morning with Barb Dahl and Barb Weckman-Brecky. And then we went to the CDA ribbon cutting this afternoon to celebrate Legacy Central.
Nice.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Ulrich.
On the 8th, I attended the meeting with the Savage Mayor and Administrator. Same day, Scott County Transportation Committee. Same day, the STA Board meeting. The 9th, the tour of the Three Rivers Park District, Mississippi Gateway, and that annual meeting. On the 11th, the 169 Corridor Coalition Executive Committee. Now, they're going to make a recommendation to the full board to disband the coalition. And the reason being is, for all these years, Scott County has really carried the weight and leadership of that group, and we have completed or in progress on pretty much every project or everything on 169. You know, obviously, if you had a real long horizon, you'd talk about the River Bridge, the Bloomington Ferry Bridge, but that's such a long horizon. And jurisdictions north of Scott County and south of Scott County really haven't been attending. You know, if that coalition were to be continuing, the weight of it should be picked up by people south of us or north of us. And it's like pushing a rope right now. And so we're going to recommend to the executive committee, to the full board in our November meeting that I don't think completely disband it, but there's a way you could put it in sort of suspended situation so that if in the near future or future somebody wanted to pick it up, it would still be there available. Although I haven't heard the details of all of that, but that's what Delaney said today at the CDA event. Okay. On the 12th, I attended Scale and had the fire department presentation. The 15th, the Scale service delivery. They talked a lot about the fire on JPA. And I listened with sort of amusement, that they want to create a JPA for the fire, and they can't wait to get out of the RTF JPA. And they talk about this fire academy, and I go, where's that gonna happen? Where's that? They're wanting to get out of the RTF, and we got a burn tower and a Class A burn structure, and we're willing to expand the possibilities there. And what greater location for a fire academy? And I just don't get it. I don't really think there's a clear defined outcome that they're looking for exactly with the JPA. Some of the administrators were saying, begin with the goal. What goals do you want to accomplish with the JPA, and come back to us then. Get some more clarity there. They did have a nice presentation, but I do have questions. And I don't think we would be part of that, would we? We don't have any fire, so even though a majority of what the fire department does isn't put out fires, it's all kinds of other rescues and safety and emergencies and stuff. I mean, it was like 20% that was actually putting out fires, right? Okay. That same day, we had an MVTA Management Committee in-depth presentation on the market study they did. That was the basis of salaries. I don't think anybody's happy with that market study and where we ended up. When we finally lifted up the hood and saw all the inner workings, not just the more upfront presentation that you would typically get, when we went into the mechanics of it, we went, oh boy. So there's going to be more meetings, more discussion. There's not a lot of happiness there of what's happened with the board or the management committee. I wasn't on the management committee last year, but nobody's happy. Fish Executive Committee that same day, the ditch board meeting, sorry. Sorry. And then the CDA event this afternoon at lunchtime. That's end of my report.
Thank you very much. On the 5th, had a call with Peter Frosch from Greater MSP as we're trying to figure out how we detangle and with the CDA, and interested in having a little more conversation about that. On the 9th, I believe it was, the Three Rivers Joint Board meeting up at Mississippi Gateway. I'm like, boy, if I'm ever up there and have a little extra time, I'd be stopping by that parking. It's pretty awesome. And then, as has been mentioned, 9, 10, 11, and 12 up at Alex for the AMC Fall Conference. And I did think that, try to talk to a lot of different commissioners, just to, pick their brains. What are they doing? What shifts are they seeing? What areas of chink in the armor can they find, to push back a little bit more? And I kind of found two groups of folks. One, just as a generalization, of course, one just sort of defeated, like, I'm so sick of the state. It was just kind of Eeyore, like, okay, here we just go. And then the other group, again, generalization, I'm so sick and tired of the state, and I'm going to double down. There was kind of two camps. And so, like I talked about with the Micah, with Emilio's part, in that room anyway, there was some passion. There was some blood, but you could feel, the passion, the energy rising of like, this is crazy, that they, on any topic, any number of topics. But then I asked the question, okay, we all feel this way, and there's a little more passion in the room. Now what? Like, are we just gonna go and pass our levies and we were mad and nothing happens? Or are we like really going to bond together and find enough common ground, leaving room for everyone can have their little nuance and their little hobby horse, but the big things that we can all agree on to really make a difference at the state? I don't know, we'll see. And there was an Elton John doppelganger sort of look like there, but Commissioner Wolf can talk about that. Let's see, in the 15th, scale service delivery, as was mentioned, the fire district / JPA. It was just fun. At least they had the conversations happening. I don't know where it'll go. It just seems like some of the regionalization that we're trying to do as a county on different things to try to bring some efficiency and save some money. This might be a nice opportunity as well. Then let's see, had a lunch with Hart and our administrator and Health and Human Services Director. And then, today, cutting the ribbon on Legacy Central. That concludes my report.
So, yeah, I just had a couple things. First off, and I wanted to say it earlier, but we were running a little bit behind. We had one more retirement this month, and he chose not to come to the board, but I would want you to recognize Steve Brown, a longtime supervisor in HHS, and if you were to talk to Suzanne and Barb, I think they would tell you that he has been instrumental in some of our out-of-home placement numbers and the work he does across those lines with working with kids and families. And then the other one would be in truancy. I remember my first meeting with him and Judith Brumfield on DWM, and it was, what? We don't really do truancy. And the improvements now we're making in both that area and working with the attorney's office and trying to divert it even before they get there, I think we can attribute to some of Steve's work. So I do want to recognize we're losing another long-term employee here at the end of September. And then finally, I wanted to thank Perry and Jake, I think Barb, and I think you, the commissioners. Again, I think we got out ahead on some legislative things. We've had some good discussions. And you see solid waste now up in the front again. It's a big issue that we have to figure out. I think Barb did an excellent job with Olmsted and Dakota County presenting on the systems and even calling back here and showing the impact of how long it takes to do some of this work and how we could be more efficient. And then even Armor, I heard mentioned this morning. And so how do we get to that statewide system? And does that look differently than everybody just willy-nilly? And that we're more connected on that. So those are three of the things you've prioritized, and they again are up front at AMC and being talked about. So nice job to our staff on that and working with Matt and in you and helping to prepare for those. So I thought that was good news as well.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Looking down to my right, County Attorney.
I think we've had enough for the day.
All right, if you say so, I'll take your word for that. Okay, we're gonna move to, before we adjourn, we are gonna meet briefly, I think, in a workshop just for any commissioner round robin items. So, item 13, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's talk about this for a minute. Any discussion?
Could we adjourn a little later if we wanted to?
Maybe. Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.